All right, all right. Keep your pants on. I'm here. We're live. This is the Eternal Abyss, your host, of course. We're doing an evening version of the Abyss instead of the usual morning thing today. We skipped the morning stream because tonight there's something very special happening. The vice presidential debates of 2020. I think there's only one vice presidential debate that happens, and it's happening today. I completely forgot about it yesterday. I didn't think about it at all. So that's why I said that yesterday. I said, oh, we'll see you guys tomorrow morning, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, here we are. And we're going to be doing that in 1 hour. It's going to start at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to do what we usually do. We're going to listen in. We're going to maybe do some commentary. I'm going to try, as I usually do, not to talk too much during the whole thing. Before I start, of course, I want to go and greet everybody as I usually do on all the platforms that I happen to be on. Hey, hello everybody, and welcome to the stream. Hello everybody on Periscope, on YouTube, on Bitwave, yes, Twitch, DLive, and Float.app. I don't think I forgot any. If I did, I'm sorry if I forgot you. It's just an oversight. I really do care. I do. But anyways, here we are. We're gonna be doing the VP debate. Should you care? Meh. I don't know. Hey MZ, how you doing? Yeah, I have Float working right now. We got that as part of the whole slew of platforms that I am streaming on. A wholesome YouTube friendly stream. Yes, sir. I try to be family friendly. I really do. And actually, I did remember to bring up my Float page so I can actually look at Float chat while we're looking at all the other chats, because I have everything up now. So every so often I'm going to go through everything. But I want to say, I hope everyone's doing all right. I hope everyone's had a good time so far with this insanity that's been going on in the world. And honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. Float is broken. You wouldn't use it. Bad idea. I don't know. I just have it going right now. I have it working. I like the concept of it. I like the idea of it. It's very small right now. I think it has potential. So I'm just gonna throw my stream on there, see what happens, see if there's any takers. And you may have noticed that on my stream, I've also done a couple changes on there. Well, I can go now. I might as well stay on it now. But I've also made some changes to my my whole display here, trying to make it a little bit simpler, a little bit easier, more helpful for people to see how to follow and how to support. So we're kind of cleaning that up right now. I don't know if this is going to be the last version of this for now. We may or may not change it up again. I don't know. I'm always looking at ways to improve my whole overlay and my user experience, my viewer experience, as it were. I've been mostly paying attention to what's been going on for the VP debate. I haven't really been looking at the news super duper carefully, to be honest with you. So there's not a whole lot of news items that I want to talk about. Float leaks IP via chat if you post in it. Really? Huh. Oh yes, there's a lot of stuff that I think Pence should bring up when it comes to the debate, and we'll talk about that a little bit closer to the debate when it's gonna start. Like in about a half hour or so, we're gonna talk a little bit more about that. But there are a couple of things that I did want to. Thank you, sir. Made in USA. Thank you for giving me a lemon. Hold up. That's strange. Why is the volume so low? There we go. Oh, thank you so much for all the lemons. I really appreciate it on DLive. Really, really do. Any support is really appreciated. That's why I put the links up to all my social media for Twitter, Gab, Parler, or Parlay. minds float. I'm just trying to help the growth, because really that's where it is. If you guys can help me grow, that's even better. Monetary donations like ko-fi.com/coffee/the eternal abyss. That's greatly appreciated. Any sort of monetary support is appreciated as well. Sure, I'm not gonna say no to that. I'm not gonna sneeze at money. Or Ethereum, it's in the description of the video if you want to donate cryptocurrency. I'm not going to say no to that. But mostly it's just followers. But I didn't really plan on doing the shilling part just now, the shameless self-promotion just at this moment in time. So there are a couple news items that I do want to talk about that I saw happening right now. And I believe I have a couple on my phone maybe, but I do have it primarily on my computer here if I don't find it on the phone. So there's been this whole debate whether Biden will even do the second debate or any other debate with Trump because of the whole fact that Trump got COVID. Doctors are saying he's fine, no symptoms, no nothing, no live virus. They gave him a clean bill of health, basically. And Trump put out a video, which is funny because everybody on Twitter was like, "We haven't seen him on video for 44 hours. Where's Trump? Where's Trump?" And then he puts a video out. It's like these people are deranged. I swear, these people are just deranged. They can't just focus for a moment. It's hard to get excited about a debate when two old men won't be arguing like high schoolers. Yeah, I don't expect the same fireworks. I really don't expect the same fireworks that we saw with Trump versus Biden. And well, I don't know if there's no more rallies for a month. I think he's going to keep doing the rallies. I don't know. I hadn't heard that he's going to stop doing the rallies. So I don't know if that's necessarily the case. But yeah, you're definitely not going to see the same amount of fireworks that you saw at the Trump Biden debate. I think this is going to be much more subdued. It's going to be more of your traditional political debates. One of the big I was going to talk about this later, but we might as well talk about it now since this is the big topic du jour. Everybody's talking about this. Then I'll talk about some news items and we can come back and wrap around here when we're ready to start, which is, like I said, mentioned, it's going to start at 9 p.m. I just saw that animated GIF there, Made in USA review. Thank you, that's awesome. Keck. Nope, starts at 9 p.m. We're an hour early. So I think there are a couple things that if Pence wants to really rattle Kamala Harris. Actually, did you hear about this? Did you hear that the Trump camp, they have a seat reserved at the debate for Tupac? Did you hear this? I love this guy. Okay, I don't care if you like Trump or not. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're a Democrat. That's funny. That is funny. I was laughing my ass off when I heard about that. No, for Tupac Shakur. Because Kamala said that he's the greatest rapper alive. So no, I don't know. I don't think Obama's gonna be there or anything like that. No, but it's just funny to me. I mean, the guy's the king of the trolls. You gotta give him that. He is the troll master. It is hilarious. It is the funniest thing in the world. It is so damn funny, and I really want Pence to address that. I want Trump to address that. Not Trump. Jeez, what was that? I want Pence. I want Pence to address that. I want Pence to call her out on her shameless and horrific pandering. Oh yeah, the Clint Eastwood thing. No, no, that's not happening this time around. Excuse me, I'm gonna take a sip of my drink. Mm. No, it's they're gonna leave a seat open for Tupac. They're going to there was a demand by Kamala Harris to have some plexiglass barrier between the two. I don't think that's gonna happen. I didn't hear anybody agreeing to that. And the other thing that has come up is the moderator. A lot of people have been talking about the moderator for this debate, who is a USA Today journalist. Her name is Susan Page. And I honestly didn't know a whole lot about her. I dug in a little bit to do some research about her. No, Susan Page, unfortunately. And this person wrote a book. Yeah, I know, USA Today. That should tell you everything right there. I mean, it's USA Today. I mean, come on. But apart from USA Today, this woman wrote a book, a biography on Pelosi, talking about how wonderful a leader she is and how wonderful a person she is and praising her and all this sort of crap. So the biggest complaint that a lot of people had in the last debate was the fact that Chris Wallace just was not an unbiased moderator. Now, if you have someone who's moderating this debate, do you seriously think that they can be unbiased when they wrote a book praising Pelosi? I predict that this moderator is going to be just as terrible as Chris Wallace. Maybe not as bad, but I have a feeling that she's going to interject her own opinions into the questions. I have a feeling that she's going to interject her own politics into the questions, and she's going to interject her own politics and opinions into the actual debating and moderating. I have a feeling. That's my prediction. It's happened so far. It's happened so far with every debate that we've seen when we had a very left-leaning moderator, because they just can't seem to help themselves to interject their own personal stupid opinions into the debate. And it's a problem. This is a serious, serious problem. Now, I understand the problem of bias, because it's not something... Make Alex Jones the next debate, Jenny. That would be funny. Honestly, that would be entertainment right there. See, I think what should happen is this. It's incredibly difficult to remove bias. Oh man, Bill O'Reilly. That would be a pretty funny debate moderator if you have Bill O'Reilly up there. But going back to what I was saying is that it's difficult to remove bias. Okay, I get that. I totally get that. But there are measures that could be taken. You could have a group of people that set up the question. I mean, you're supposed to have this with the debate committee, the commission. I mean, you have the presidential debate commission that's supposed to provide like oversight and planning and all this kind of stuff. And it's supposed to be bipartisan. It's supposed to be like apolitical, but it's obviously not. It's obviously packed with people who are much more left-leaning than they are right. Hey, Bud Green, how you doing, sir? Welcome to the stream. It's obviously packed with people with their own agendas and political biases. So my question is this: is like, why can't we go into this commission and just revamp it completely? Make sure that we have people that review questions to remove obvious political opinions and interjections. Oh, come on, the commission is totally fair. You Republicans are just crying because you're losing. Yeah, I'm sure we are losing. No, the point is this, is that the commission itself has a lot of problems. This isn't anything new. I mean, this bias has existed in previous presidential and vice presidential debates. You've seen this bias even in the primaries. I mean, in the primaries, at least you can kind of understand it because the Republicans have their own moderators. And you have on the Democrat side, liberals moderating their debates. So I mean, in the primaries, it's kind of understandable, and nobody really cares. But even in those, even in the primaries, I feel that's a disservice. That's a disservice to your own party, to your own political belief system that you follow, because you're not really questioning the candidates in your primary properly. There's no real pushback on Democrats by Democrats, and there's no real pushback on Republicans by Republicans. The only time you saw fireworks in a real primary debate had more to do with the fact that Trump has been involved in it, with the Republican primary and now even in the Democrat primary, because Trump was basically the main topic of conversation. So there was a lot of, emotions running high for that, and a lot of back and forth and a lot of infighting for that reason. So I don't think that the way debates are done well. Good Lord. What's with all the malarkeys? Yes, sir, G. Gallon. We're having a watch party for the VP debates. It's going to start at 9 p.m. We're talking about that right now. I wanted to talk about some news items before we got even deeper into the debate discussion here. There are a couple news items that I wanted to talk about. So something came up here in the news. And all these people that are telling you that the mail fraud doesn't exist, they're all those people that are trying to push that. Let me give you some news here. Thousands of misprinted voter registration forms sent in North Carolina were mailed by a private firm, not a state election board, according to ABC and CBS. Little blurb here. Voter registration forms with the wrong name, address, and date of birth were accidentally, quote unquote, mailed to 11,000 North Carolina residents by technology vendor Civitech. The forms did not come from a government agency, journalists have said. In Los Angeles, around 2,100 residents received misprinted mail ballots and were missing the presidential vote card. In both cases, voters will receive new and corrected registration forms of ballots. President Trump tweeted about these incidents late on Tuesday night. I mean, come on. People want to tell me that this stuff is just all coincidentally an accident. It's just an oopsie. It's just an oopsie. Please. If you think that this is just a mistake, I have a couple bridges that I'd like to sell you. I seriously do. This is ridiculous. This is election fraud. This is voter fraud. Mail-in ballot fraud. It happens. It's happened at small scale. It's going to happen at large scale. And I'm glad that there are Supreme Courts of states that are locking down this sort of thing and trying to make sure that there's some level of integrity in the election. This is stupid that this is going on, and it's stupid that the Democrats and the left are pushing for this sort of thing. Also, what came out in the news that Trump has ordered the declassification of all the documents that relate to this whole Russia hoax that was apparently okayed by Hillary Clinton, that Brennan was well aware of that, and he was aware that Hillary Clinton had okayed this. Everybody knew that the Steele dossier was absolute malarkey, as you see on screen with the bitwave here. Have I seen the video where celebrities go nude and tell me how to vote? No, I have not, and depending on the celebrity, 99.9% chance I don't need to see that, and I don't want to see that. Yeah, it's pretty much Gangs of New York. That's what they're doing. Like, I remember a scene in Gangs of New York where you have, like, what, you only voted once? Go back and vote again. You have to do your patriotic duty. Well, they are communists. Many are. Even though, this is the other thing. Sarah Silverman and Amy Schumer. Yes, thank God I did not see that. Oh, God Almighty in heaven, thank God I didn't see that. Hey, King Magna. How you doing, sir? Good to see you. Yeah, I know. She's like a chameleon. She just changes her race whenever it's convenient. First she's Indian, then she's black, then she's whatever. It's hilarious. No, it's this whole thing is ridiculous with the mail-in voting, and the whole thing is ridiculous with this whole situation. And to me, oh God, no, Sarah Silverman nude. Ugh. I would rather pour lemon juice in my eyeballs. You want me to go nude and tell you who to vote? Well, I'm not on camera. I can take my clothes off. That's not a big deal. No, the point is, I don't need to see that. I don't need to see that. Simple. Simple, Magna. I don't need to see. I don't care how good they are. The king has spoken. Do the debate in your birthdays. Maybe we'll do that for the final presidential debate. For the final presidential debate, we may do a nude stream. I don't know. Let's see. We'll think about it. Sarah Silverman is built like a ghoul. Listen, all I know is that to me, she's just not an attractive woman. So I don't need to see that. If I want to see someone naked, there's plenty of other people that I would desire to see naked. I mean, compared to Amy Schumer, Illustrator, you do have a point there. I mean, if I have to choose between seeing Sarah Silverman nude or Amy Schumer, Sarah Silverman would take the vote on that one. Shalom, hetero alpha god. How are you, sir? Welcome to the stream. So yeah, basically, I lost my train of thought because now we're talking about naked celebrities that are horribly unattractive. That completely derailed me. No, but what I was talking about was the declassification order that Trump put through. That's fantastic to me. That is fantastic to me. Yeah, the deep fakes of Ben Shapiro's sister. Yeah. I still don't know if that's really. I don't believe that's really her. But anyways, speaking of Jews, speaking of Shalom and speaking of Sarah Silverman, did you see like what happened in New York City, where you had a bunch of Hasidic Jews who were burning masks and protesting Cuomo and de Blasio's orders about what's been going on with their schools, and because they're trying to shut down the synagogues, they're trying to shut down religious groups because, as Cuomo put it, religious groups are a problem, which is actually really, really dangerous territory to go into constitutionally because of the First Amendment right of the Constitution. People have a right to believe in their religion, and the government shall not infringe on that. So Cuomo is very much crossing into unconstitutional territory. And on top of that, you had police dispersing them, and you had people like James Woods saying, "Oh, like it's very bad optics to have, to round up the Jews and to do things like that." And I agree, it's very bad optics, but I think it's funny to me. Speaking of Jews, as if we do anything else on Bitwave. I know, right? Religious groups are the problem for godless commies. That's right, Bud Green. That's true. Cuomo. So what happened with Cuomo is this, and de Blasio, is that they had police round up the Jews, and it's so funny to me that everybody talks about, oh, this is anti-Semitism, and it's anti-Semitism, and it may be, and I'm not saying, I agree with James Woods' tweet, for example. I agree. Bad optics, I agree. It's not really something you want to see on video that your city is trying to round up Jews and do terrible things to them. So, but the thing is this, I do find it funny that whenever there is any interaction with Jews, that it automatically goes in the direction of anti-Semitism. Well, listen, I don't agree with what is being done to the Jews in New York, the Hasidic Jews. I don't agree that Cuomo and de Blasio are specifically targeting not only the Hasidic Jews, but they're targeting all religious people. They're targeting Catholics, they're targeting Christians, they're targeting Jews, they're targeting Hasidic Jews. But they won't talk about the Muslims. I haven't heard anybody specifically criticize Muslims and keeping the Muslim mosques open or closed. I haven't heard Cuomo say anything about that, or de Blasio. So if you're going to have a problem with religious groups, you should be consistent with that. And if you don't have a problem with them, you shouldn't. You shouldn't pick and choose which religious group you want to protect or want to criticize or whatever. That's the biggest problem that I have with these sort of behaviors that are coming out of Cuomo and de Blasio. It is targeted. It is targeted towards the Jews. It is targeted towards Christians. Is it specifically anti-Semitic or religious bigotry? Maybe. But I think it's a problem overall. It's a problem with religion overall, especially Christians and Jews, that people like de Blasio and Cuomo have, and that is disgusting, to say the least. You know? Or they're having huge events and causing a large number of cases. Yeah, they are having cases, but the thing is this, okay? The government cannot overreach in their powers. This is what's been going on with a lot of Supreme Court cases in different states, much like what happened in Michigan, where Michigan basically declared, since from April to present, all of Governor Whitmer's executive orders to be null and void because she overstepped her power. She overstepped her bounds. She went against the state's constitution. If you want groups of people to cooperate with you, being confrontational, being a tyrant, being a mini dictator is not the way to go, generally speaking. Cuomo is a piece of shit, yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, I honestly, to me, whatever it takes to get rid of these people, and when I say whatever it takes, I mean whatever it takes politically and whatever it takes peacefully. I don't advocate violence. I don't advocate for any sort of physical thing with them. I don't advocate death, illness, murder. I don't advocate anything of that kind. I am speaking. If there is a way to get rid of these people, whatever it takes should be done in terms of political processes. This is not a call for violence. No, sir. I rationalize. I do not radicalize. Cuomo was seething. I didn't see Cuomo seething. Was he? Well, I can probably tell you this, though, about the Cuomos. The Cuomos, to be in the position that they are, most likely they have some connection, maybe with the mafia, but that's my speculation. No, I am not calling for violence. I am just saying, through legitimate means and nonviolent means, if whatever it needs to be done within the scope of nonviolence and legitimate means should be done to get rid of these people. They're doing harm to our country. They're doing serious harm to our country. When you have a party like the Democrat, I mean, I've called the Democrat Party a domestic terrorist organization. And some people may think that's a harsh label to slap onto the Democrats. And you know what? Maybe it is, but there's reasons why I use that term. The reason why I use that term is because these people are actively going against the Constitution. I mean, just look at all, like, between April and present, the governor, Democrat governor of Michigan, violated the Constitution over and over and over and over and over. She abused her power over and over and over and over. So it's very problematic to me when a party specifically endorses this sort of behavior from people that are elected and are in leadership positions. Not only that, they're advocating for the destruction of this country. They want this country to be destroyed. They want to remove its history. They want to remove the defense rights of the people. They are actively using their positions to enact a form of political violence towards its citizenry. When you're using the power of government as a political bludgeoning tool, that is, to me, the definition of a tyrant. And if they're not a domestic terrorist group, okay, they are definitely a radical tyrant party. They are tyrants. They act like tyrants, and the courts have shown that. Because this isn't just one executive order that went overboard, okay? This isn't just one instance. In the case I keep using Governor Whitmer as an example because it's pretty shocking when you have every executive order that a governor has done from April to present get stricken down by the courts saying, no, from like 8 months worth, 6, 7 months, 6, 7, 8 months worth of executive orders, all gone. It's insane. It's unheard of. If it was just maybe one executive order that was like, oh, okay, well, she did one that just went overboard. Or if it's just something stupid like Obama did. Like, Obama specifically went overboard in his constitutional authority when he implemented DACA. He did that through executive order. He said it himself that he was doing this to push legislation. He knew it was going to get stricken down. He should have gotten stricken down in the Supreme Court of the United States. And he knew that that was supposed to happen. And he said so himself. He knew that this was unconstitutional, basically. He knew that he was going above and beyond his authority because he was doing it to push Congress. That was his goal. So in that specific case, one could say, well, okay, he's using the system to make a political point. I could even almost say, well, all right, I kind of agree, or not agree, but at least I can at least understand. I can understand the logic behind that. It's a one-time deal. You'll take my stream views? Why will you take my stream views? What? What did I ever do to you, Dastardly Deviant? How about you bring your views over to me? Let's do that. But anyways, I just find it amazing that you have people like Whitmer, you have people like Cuomo, you have people like de Blasio, who are just flaunting the rules for whatever it's convenient for them. Like, who cares about city ordinances about painting crap on the road? Oh, no, because we want to do something in front of Trump Tower, we want to paint Black Lives Matter, not because they really care or believe in this message or anything like that. They're doing it for a political statement. They're doing it purely for political posturing and theater. And on top of that, he's breaking every single rule of his own city, and he's the mayor. He's the mayor. He does ordinances for masks, and then he's walking around without one. Cuomo as well, saying, wear a mask, wear a mask, wear a mask, and then he doesn't wear a mask. Maxine Waters, same thing, wear a mask, wear a mask, wear a mask, and she's not wearing a mask. Pelosi, same thing. Dianne Feinstein, same thing. I could keep going. This is the frustrating thing for someone like myself. All I expect is a little bit of ideological consistency. All I want is a little bit of ideological consistency. That's really all I'm looking for. If you're gonna hammer me so much about masks, then why don't you wear one yourself? Oh, no. I'm the immoral person. I'm the bad guy. I'm the villain if I'm not wearing the mask. I'm killing everybody around me if I don't wear the mask. But it's okay that you don't. Is that right, Cuomo? Is that right, Feinstein? Is that right, Pelosi? Oh, yeah. Okay. This message brought to you by the ADL. Yeah. And for the record, I have never, ever told someone not to wear a mask. I never have. I have always said, if you want to wear a mask, be my guest. I only suggest that if you're going to wear a mask that's rated for the virus. Wear a mask that will filter out the virus. It's like if you're going to put a chain link fence up to try and keep mosquitoes out, you're really not doing a whole lot to keep the mosquitoes out. But if you put like a very thin film, like a very thin screen to prevent mosquitoes from coming in, then you're doing the correct job here. You're using the correct tool for the correct job. The correct tool for the job, not the correct job. And that's all I'm saying. If you're going to use a tool to help you combat something or to do something, use the right tool for the job. You want to wear a mask? Wear a mask. But don't go vilifying people that don't want to wear a mask. They have their reasons. And it's their choice. It's their freedom. Simple. So, well, like I said, Spooks, I tell people, hey, you want to wear a mask? Wear a mask. I'm not going to tell you not to. That's simple. That's really what it boils down to. I just take issue. I don't have issues with masks. I take issue with authoritarianism. I take issue with tyranny. I take issue when governors, as again I mentioned, Governor Whitmer abuses her powers because she's trying to get back at people for not wanting to listen to her. Governor Whitmer is a petulant child. She does not deserve to be in the position she's in. Depends on the video, Spooks. I may be able to show one or not. I don't know. I'm gonna do the debate stream. When the debate starts, I'm gonna show that. A lot of times, the problem with videos is that YouTube and other platforms will strike me. For that reason. They'll not necessarily strike me, but they'll do a copyright claim on me. For the stupid stuff, I've gotten copyright claims from YouTube for my royalty-free music. If you can believe that. So I can, if you send me a video over, I mean, I can take a look at it and see if it's something that I can play, and I can make a guess whether I'm gonna get a copyright claim on it or not. Which is why my streams are kind of uneventful. It's just me, really. It's basically a podcast. It's just me talking. It's like a radio show. There's not a whole lot of visual, I'm afraid, with my videos right now, because I don't get on camera myself. And maybe if I got on camera, it might be a little bit different. Really? You got a copyright ban for playing Golden Boys clips? That's ridiculous. A news clip? Yeah, I mean, one time with one of the primary debates, I got a copyright claim from like CBS. And the funny thing was, it was a CNN clip. I have no idea how that even works. CBS does not own CNN. Yet somehow, because I was showing one of the primary things, the primary debates, CBS tried to do a claim on that. I was like, what? But I disputed it. I disputed it with YouTube, and I told them, seriously, you guys don't look at these claims at all? Yes, you're absolutely right, Ambassador Ambassador of dog. I agree. There's a lot of not great sources out there for stuff, and you have to be careful where you source your material from, for sure. So, but they were claiming it was some other song, and maybe it sounded similar to another song. But I showed them I showed them the website, and I showed them where I got the song from, and I was like, guys, this is not the song you claim it is. It's a different song. Maybe there's similarities, I don't know. But I gave them the title, I gave them the source, I gave them the website, I showed them everything. Wow, they banned you for 30 days. I got a 30-day live stream ban off of YouTube a long time ago when I first started, and I can't remember the reason anymore for it. Float, yes sir, Studio 8424. I am on Float. How you doing? What, the stream died on Float? What's happening? What's going on? No, everything's up. A long time ago when I first started. No, everything seems to be working. I think we're good. Sorry, I just got the notice in my chats about this sort of thing. I wanted to make sure I wanted to address that. Let's see. You work in a hospital, and recently they gave everybody cloth masks with the hospital's emblem on them, and they have a note on the package that the hospital still requires all employees to wear procedure masks while on duty, but we encourage all employees to wear these off campus. Really? That's funny. Who has the clearly superior stream? You're talking about my stream? Well, who's this anal ting? Who's anal ting? Advertising how yeah, hospitals that do stuff for profit is kind of scary to me. I don't think that's a good idea. I find that I find that somewhat disturbing. It's spooks. It's spoob, right? I could do a co-hosting thing. I don't mind. I hadn't planned on it for this stream, so it's very much a virtue signaling at this point. I agree. I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying that masks don't work. I'm saying that if you're going to wear masks that work. That's my only thing. When it comes to the actual, how functional and efficient these masks are, like how functional they are. If they actually work to prevent the virus from going in and out, well, there are a lot of masks that just don't work. Well, I'm not gonna do I don't think I'm gonna do that today. I hadn't planned on a co-hosting thing. This was just gonna be my stream for today. We can work on the next presidential debate and see if we can plan that. No, there are a lot of masks out there that just don't. They're not rated for anything. They don't work. They don't do anything. Well, because the argument is that they work. That's the thing. It'll make Hitler seethe. Oh, poor Hitler. Poor Senator Hitler. Yeah, really, masks are very much a... This is the thing. There are masks that are rated for the virus, and there are masks that work. So I'm not going to say that all masks don't work, because there are masks that work. There are masks that are not rated for the virus. There are masks that are pretty much useless. It is a virtue signal. When you have people like Alyssa Milano wearing a knitted mask, that tells me a lot. And that is the big problem. Definitely not the FBI. A lot of masks that people wear don't do anything. They're not rated for the virus. Only N95s work, and not all N95s. There are certain N95s, depending on the rating, that do or do not work. So, I mean, the point is this. The point is this for me. It's like, as I said, you want to wear a mask? Wear a mask. You want to wear a mask that actually does something? Do that as well. You want to wear a mask just a virtue signal? Be my guest. But I can't take you seriously if you're going to wear a stupid mask that does absolutely nothing. Well, I've seen infomercials as well. You know, I've seen infomercials for face screens. Like just these clear plastic face screens, and they're saying, "Oh, this is much better than a mask," even though it's all open. I'm looking at this infomercial going, seriously? Well, you have to be able to breathe with the mask. I mean, you can't have a mask that completely blocks off any sort of like air that comes in and out. But depending on how the mask is designed, yeah, it could be pretty useless. So that's the problem. You know, that's a good question, there, Bud Green. Going back to the debate, do you think Pence will interrupt? I think Pence is really a very, very polite guy. I don't think that he's going to interrupt, but I think that he has been shown. He had. Oh my goodness, pardon me. See, we're talking about masks. I'm getting the coof. Anyway. No, Pence. Whenever Pence speaks or he does a speech or something like that, he can be forceful and strong, and he can speak forcefully, and he can be a very strong figure and determined figure. He's not really a wishy-washy kind of guy. So the only question is, like, if there's a lot of bullcrap that Kamala Harris is doing. See, I think what's going to happen is this. If Kamala Harris starts acting up, essentially, and starts interrupting a lot, or starts cackling and starts doing a lot of crap like she did in the primaries, because she was very much interrupting in the primaries. She didn't stay silent all the time. She would jump in as much as she could, even though she seemed like she was a drunk sailor. So I think that maybe he may be provoked into responding if the stuff that she is saying is just sheer ridiculousness, or if she keeps interrupting him. Yeah, if he's being attacked, he'll reply. He'll punch back. Yeah, I should have been wearing a mask. Even though I'm completely alone in my house here, and and there's nobody around for like over, I don't know how many feet. Let's check out this link. Let's see what this is about. Pandemic detection? What is this? This is interesting. Hold on, let me see if I can bring this up in OBS and we could all enjoy it together. Alright, 1 second here. Let's see what I can do.
To Bob for that. The struggle to keep schools and businesses open while this pandemic rages on is likely to come up in the vice presidential debate tonight. But now there's a new technology that's about to be rolled out in classrooms claiming to help prevent the spread of COVID. Our Janae Norman has this story.
with an exclusive look at a new device said to be able to track coughs, sneezes, and fever in the classroom. Teaming up with engineers and epidemiologists, Clorox, the company famous for bleach and wipes, taking us along for its first test run in a classroom.
How can it pinpoint coughs and sneezes?
There is a microphone in the device, and it is trained to look at the unique frequencies that are coughs and sneezes. The temperature is monitored with a thermal sensor.
At this empty elementary school in New Jersey, researchers showed us how they say this illness symptom tracker works. To replicate real coughs and sneezes, researchers played audio files, and staff used heated blankets and hand warmers to imitate fevers, all tracked on this dashboard accessible by computer.
So it says 109 coughs and sneezes detected, 3 high temperature readings.
This device, time and time again, is able to detect coughs and sneezes in the classroom.
All along, this is a race between us and the virus, and any tool that we can use to give us a head start can really help.
With the help of epidemiologists, Clorox says they determined the point at which teachers should take notice of possible illness in the classroom, depending on size and other factors. For example, if a class of 24 students reaches 66 total coughs and sneezes in a 7-hour period, an alert email is sent to administrators. But experts caution that just tracking symptoms won't catch all cases of COVID-19.
One of the great challenges and mysteries of COVID is that people can be asymptomatic and still have COVID. That means no cough, no sneeze, no runny nose, no fever.
And while Clorox is looking for 100 schools across the country to participate in a trial run of this device, other schools are turning to different technology. One Houston area school district dispatching specialized cameras that the district says can take the temperature of up to 30 people at a time, capturing readings while students walk into school or down hallways. And Motorola recently introduced an AI program it says can help schools by calculating the distance between people and monitoring building capacity. The software also aiming to track mask compliance. Florida Atlantic University confirming to ABC they're exploring using this technology in high traffic areas on campus like the library.
Our thanks to Janae. And when we come back, preventing mask fights before they even start, we ask an expert about pandemic etiquette, about the manners and customs to staying safe and peacefully coexisting.
All right. Well, you know, as someone who always finds like technology very interesting, I do find that to be quite fascinating in terms of from a technological perspective. On the other side, it sounds very Orwellian. So it kind of raises a red flag in my head about certain things. I don't know how I feel about that sort of tracking. Even if the tracking is done, the question is government involvement. The question is enforcement, like if like the mask mandate sort of thing. So it's and that one of the biggest thing that came up in my mind was the fact that you could have a fever, cough, and you could have all the same symptoms as COVID, for example, and it's not necessarily a pandemic. It could be just a flu. It could be a sinus infection. It could be pharyngitis. It could be all sorts of different illnesses that have the same sort of symptoms. So what if you have a classroom, for example, that it turns out you have one person with a sinus infection, one person with just a different type of flu, and the thing starts raising all these flags. When do the COVID FEMA camps open up? I don't know. We might get there. If it's up to the Democrats, we might get there. It would seem to me like a fear, like there's. I don't think that the device itself is a fear-mongering device, but it's definitely a device that can be used for fear-mongering. And this is the biggest problem that we have with this whole pandemic, is that the media has really ramped up the fear, and it's really ramped up the paranoia and panic. They created the situation that they talk about at the end of that video, where they talk about people fighting over masks and non-masks. The media has created this thing. Politicians have created this thing. When the left essentially labels you as an evil person for not wearing a mask, you're literally killing grandma. What do you think is going to happen? You're going to have people that are going to have a visceral and emotional reaction to that. And you're going to have people who are obviously unhinged. What if the Democrats got the schools to take all the kids hostage in exchange for control of the government? I wouldn't. I don't think it's gonna reach that point. Well, there's a big philosophical discussion and political discussion when it comes to when does a person's right end and another person's right begins. You know, that has been going on for a long time. This isn't a new debate regarding that. This is something that the government has always had to strike a balance on, which is why it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous to have people all over the place in politics and in the media that are just going around saying, well, this is a right, and this other thing is a right, and this other thing is a right. No, not everything is a right. There are certain clear rights that, independent of the government system that you have, and independent of societal agreements or disagreements, and cultural agreements and disagreements, there are universally accepted things that you can pinpoint as a God-given right versus a privilege that is provided to you. Exactly. Rights are things that you are born with. It's intrinsic to you existing. Yeah, did you hear that Fauci got some kind of like ridiculous award? I don't even remember what the award was. I saw it come up like on one of the social media platforms that he won some sort of award. Ridiculous. Inalienable rights. Yes, there's a reason why that wording was chosen. Inalienable rights has a very, very, very specific meaning. The founding fathers chose this on purpose. Okay, there's a specific reason for that. Let's see here if I can get. We're getting close. We're about 8 minutes away from the debate. I do hope that certain things are brought up by Pence. They should be. They really need to be brought up. And to me, if Pence does not, it's a bit of a disservice, frankly. 1 second, I need to move my microphone. All right, so I am going to see if I can. What am I doing? I had a cable because I was going to share my screen, but what did I do with that cable? High production quality, guys. Excuse the noise. I had an HDMI cable that I was going to use. Seem to track it down now. Well. This is definitely gonna work. I want to be able to look at chat and look at. Hold on, I got it. I want to look at chat and I want to look at. Get away from there. Ah, there you go. I should just put some music on here while I get this situated. But anyways, the point that I was making is, I was gonna set this up like I did last time, where I'll be able to both watch on a different screen the debate, as well as view chat. Everything be hunky-dory. There we are. Provided I find my remote control. Got it. There we go. Okay. Let's get this rolling now. There we are. Perfect. Okay. And could not download the video. That is not good. Let's try and do this again. Play. And I will move this stuff over here. No, I'm not gonna use CNN. I plan on using C-SPAN if this will load, but I'm having some difficulties here. So we may need to figure out something else. Let's see. I have a couple alternate links that I can use if C-SPAN fails me.
Who are going to be watching it. And that's why I'm going to ask you for your help. I'm going to ask you for your silence. I'm going to ask you during the debate not to cheer or to boo or to hiss or to laugh, because that is distracting for the people we are really staging this debate to reach. There will be 2 times when you can applaud. That will be when I announce the 2 candidates on the stage. They'll come on the stage simultaneously. That'll be a time to applaud. And then applaud again at the very end of the debate. But if you could keep restrain your enthusiasm between those 2 times, I'd appreciate it. And if you could send me a little good karma, that would also be appreciated, but quietly. I'm going now to sit down and get settled and turn my back to you, but not in a rude way. And I'll see you on the other side. Thanks again for being here.
Okay, so this is getting started here. I'm gonna mute the audio here for a moment until we get started. Okay. She's not wearing a mask. Ree! Where's the empty chair? I want to see the empty chair for Tupac. Come on. Come on, cameraman. Show me. So I do hope that there's a little bit of fireworks. I hope that it's entertaining. I have a feeling, like I said, it's not going to be as entertaining as the Trump-Biden one. Yeah, no, hey, in the last debate, I really didn't talk a whole lot. I kept myself muted the whole time, so I plan on doing pretty much the same. I don't think I'm going to talk too much during the debate. I'm not going to try and interrupt. I want to make sure that people have a chance to hear the questions, hear the answers. I want it to be like a good viewing experience for everybody. So hopefully this will be, I don't know what the questions are, because like unlike Chris Wallace, I don't think she released Did she release like the questions? I don't think she released the questions. Yeah, no, I'm gonna mute my mic pretty much for the whole time. Oh, leave Bitwave chat alone. I mean, D-Live chat alone. Thank you for the post in Float chat about not using Restream. Yeah. If I can find a way to not use Restream.io, I think I'd much rather do that. Yeah, you know, whatever. I'm streaming on there, so if D-Live people want to interact and talk, I mean, it doesn't bother me. Honestly, it doesn't bother me one way or the other. I'm perfectly okay with that. Let's see if I want to try something. I want to do perfect. So now I can have 3 of the windows together here, and I can see all my chats. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Yeah, right now they're still making preparations here. It doesn't seem like they're doing a whole lot. I got all my chats up here, and we're gonna be ready to go. As soon as they're ready to start, we're ready to go here. I'll mute my microphone. He's a drunken Scotsman, yeah. Oh, you know, she's gonna do that for sure. It would not surprise me in any shape, way, or form if Kamala Harris tries to play the race card. Absolutely, she's gonna do that. She did it with Biden. She did it with Biden when Biden was doing the debating and the primary with her. She called him a racist, basically. She said that he was against people like her getting, because he was against the busing or something like that. So she already called Biden a racist. Yet somehow she has no problem being his VP. I mean, go figure on that one. You're okay with running, with your running mate being a hateful racist, apparently. So, all right. Oh God, Joe Biden joined the chat. Well. Have a good night, kids. It was fun while it lasted. Chat's gonna go downhill from now on because we got Joe Biden in there. Yeah, tell everybody that's watching Senator Hitler that they just need to come over to my stream. It's just way better. It's just infinitely better. Come on, man. The Thing and the other thing, you know, the Thing. We need more racism, Venture? Is that what you're saying? We need more racism? I think Float is an interesting platform. It has some potential. So, it's alright right now. I'm liking it so far. What the heck? My title is wrong. Hold on. What happened here? I just realized that my title is wrong on Float. That's one thing I don't like about Float. I noticed that my titling gets all messed up. Hold up. I need to fix that. That's not right. I thought I had fixed that. Okay, I saved. Refresh. There we go. Now it's correct. Oops. I don't want to hear myself. There we go. Perfect. All right, so we have that going here. It's already 9:03. They're running late. So hopefully we'll get started soon, and I'll mute the mic and I can lean back and I'll get a couple snacks for myself. Hey, Solda, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. All right.
In Salt Lake City, welcome to the first and only vice presidential debate of 2020, sponsored by the Nonpartisan Commission on Presidential Debates. I'm Susan Page of USA Today. It is my honor to moderate this debate, an important part of our democracy. In Kingsbury Hall tonight, we have a small and socially distant audience, and we've taken extra precautions during this pandemic. Among other things, everyone in the audience is required to wear a face mask, and the candidates will be seated 12 feet apart. The audience is enthusiastic about their candidates, but they've agreed to express that enthusiasm only twice, at the end of the debate and now when I introduce the candidates. Please welcome California Senator Kamala Harris and Vice President Mike Pence.
Thank you.
Senator Harris and Vice President Pence, thank you for being here. We're meeting as President Trump and the First Lady continue to undergo treatment in Washington after testing positive for COVID-19. We send our thoughts and prayers to them for their rapid and complete recovery and for the recovery of everyone afflicted by the coronavirus. The two campaigns and the Commission on Presidential Debates have agreed to the ground rules for tonight. I'm here to enforce them on behalf of the millions of Americans who are watching. One note, no one in either campaign or at the Commission or anywhere else has been told in advance what topics I'll raise or what questions I'll ask. This 90-minute debate will be divided into 9 segments of about 10 minutes each. I'll begin a segment by posing a question to each of you, sometimes the same question, sometimes a different question on the same topic. You will then have 2 minutes to answer without interruption by me or the other candidate. Then we'll take 6 minutes or so to discuss the issue. At that point, although there will always be more to say, we'll move on to the next topic. We want a debate that is lively, but Americans also deserve a discussion that is civil. These are tumultuous times, but we can and will have a respectful exchange about the big issues facing our nation. Let's begin with the ongoing pandemic that has cost our country so much. Senator Harris, the coronavirus is not under control. Over the past week, Johns Hopkins reports that 39 states have had more COVID cases over the past 7 days than in the week before. 9 states have set new records. Even if a vaccine is released soon, the next administration will face hard choices. What would a Biden administration do in January and February that a Trump administration wouldn't do? Would you impose new lockdowns for businesses and schools and hotspots? A federal mandate to wear masks? You have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Thank you, Susan. Well, the American people have witnessed what is the greatest failure of any presidential administration in the history of our country. And here are the facts. 210,000 dead people in our country in just the last several months. Over 7 million people who have contracted this disease. 1 in 5 businesses closed. We're looking at frontline workers who have been treated like sacrificial workers. We are looking at over 30 million people who in the last several months had to file for unemployment. And here's the thing. On January 28th, the Vice President and the President were informed about the nature of this pandemic. They were informed that it's lethal in consequence, that it is airborne, that it will affect young people, and that it would be contracted because it is airborne. And they knew what was happening, and they didn't tell you. Can you imagine if you knew on January 28th, as opposed to March 13th, what they knew, what you might have done to prepare? They knew and they covered it up. The president said it was a hoax. They minimize the seriousness of it. The president said, you're on one side of his ledger if you wear a mask, you're on the other side of his ledger if you don't. And in spite of all of that, today they still don't have a plan. They still don't have a plan. Well, Joe Biden does. And our plan is about what we need to do around a national strategy for contact tracing, for testing, for administration of the vaccine, and making sure that it will be free for all. That is the plan that Joe Biden has and that I have, knowing that we have to get a hold of what has been going on, and we need to save our country. And Joe Biden is the best leader to do that, and frankly, this administration has forfeited their right to re-election based on this.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, more than 210,000 Americans have died of COVID-19 since February. The U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population is higher than that of almost every other wealthy nation on earth. For instance, our death rate is 2.5 times that of Canada next door. You head the administration's coronavirus task force. Why is the U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population higher than that of almost every other wealthy country? And you have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Susan, thank you. And I want to thank the Commission and the University of Utah for hosting this event. And Senator Harris, it's a privilege to be on the stage with you. And our nation has gone through a very challenging time this year. But I want the American people to know that from the very first day, President Donald Trump has put the health of America first. Before, there were more than 5 cases in the United States, all people who had returned from China. President Donald Trump did what no other American president had ever done, and that was he suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world. Now, Senator Joe Biden opposed that decision. He said it was xenophobic and hysterical. But I can tell you, having led the White House Coronavirus Task Force, that decision alone by President Trump bought us invaluable time to stand up the greatest national mobilization since World War II. And I believe it saved hundreds of thousands of American lives. Because with that time, we were able to reinvent testing. More than 115 million tests have been done to date. We were able to see to the delivery of billions of supplies so our doctors and nurses had the resources and support they needed. And we began, really, before the month of February was out, to develop a vaccine and to develop medicines and therapeutics that have been saving lives all along the way. And under President Trump's leadership, Operation Warp Speed, we believe we'll have literally tens of millions of doses of a vaccine before the end of this year. The reality is, when you look at the Biden plan, it reads an awful lot like what President Trump and I and our task force have been doing every step of the way. I mean, quite frankly, when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine, it looks a little bit like plagiarism, which is something Joe Biden knows a little bit about. And I think the American people know that this is a president who has put the health of America first, and the American people, I believe with my heart, can be proud of the sacrifices they have made. It's saved countless American lives.
Senator Harris, would you like to respond?
Absolutely. Whatever the vice president is claiming the administration has done, clearly it hasn't worked. When you're looking at over 210,000 dead bodies in our country, American lives that have been lost, families that are grieving that loss. And you know, the vice president is the head of the task force and knew on January 28th how serious this was. And then thanks to Bob Woodward, we learned that they knew about it. And then when that was exposed, the vice president said, when asked, well, why didn't y'all tell anybody? He said, because the president wanted people to remain calm.
Well, let's get
no, but Susan, this is important.
Susan,
I want to add, but Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I'm
speaking.
Yeah, you can have 15 more seconds, and then we'll give the vice president a chance to respond.
So I want to ask the American people, how calm were you when you were panicked about where you're going to get your next roll of toilet paper? How calm were you when your kids were sent home from school and you didn't know when they could go back? How calm were you when your children couldn't see your parents because you were afraid they could kill them?
Let's give Vice President Pence a chance to respond. Vice President Pence, you have 1 minute to respond.
You know, there's not a day gone by that I haven't thought of every American family that's lost a loved one. And I want all of you to know that you'll always be in our hearts and in our prayers. But when you say what the American people have done over these last 8 months hasn't worked, that's a great disservice to the sacrifices the American people have made.
I'm referring
The
to
reality,
you and the
if I may finish, Senator, the reality is Dr. Fauci said everything that he told the president in the Oval Office, the president told the American people. Now, President Trump, I will tell you, has boundless confidence in the American people, and he always spoke with confidence that we'd get through this together. But when you say it hasn't worked, when Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and our medical experts came to us in the second week of March, they said if the president didn't take the unprecedented step of shutting down roughly half of the American economy, that we could lose 2.2 million Americans. Now, that's the reality.
Thank you.
They also
Thank you,
said
Vice
to us, if
President
we
Pence.
did everything right, Susan, we could still lose more than 200,000 Americans.
Vice President
Now, one
Pence.
life lost is too
Thank you.
many, Susan. But the American people, I believe, deserve credit for the sacrifices that they have made, putting the health of their family and their neighbors first, our doctors, our nurses, our first
Thank you, Vice
responders.
President Pence.
And I'm going to speak up on behalf of what the American people have done.
Vice President Pence, you were in your administration and congressional officials. No social distancing, few masks, and now a cluster of coronavirus cases among those who were there. How can you expect Americans to follow the administration's safety guidelines to protect themselves from COVID when you at the White House have not been doing so?
Well, the American people have demonstrated over the last 8 months that when given the facts, they're willing to put the health of their families and their neighbors and people they don't even know first. President Trump and I have great confidence in the American people and their ability to take that information and put it into practice. In the height of the epidemic, when we were losing a heartbreaking number of 2,500 Americans a day, we surged resources to New Jersey and New York and New Orleans and Detroit. We told the American people what needed to be done, and the American people made the sacrifices. When the outbreak in the Sun Belt happened this summer, again, Americans stepped forward. But the reality is the work of the President of the United States goes on. A vacancy on the Supreme Court of the United States has come upon us, and the President introduced Judge Amy Coney Barrett.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice
But
President
at
Pence.
that, if I may say, that Rose Garden event, there's been a great deal of speculation about it. My wife Karen and I were there and honored to be there. Many of the people who were at that event, Susan, actually were tested for coronavirus, and it was an outdoor event, which all of our scientists regularly and routinely advise. The difference here is President Trump and I trust the American people to make choices in the best interest of their health. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris consistently talk about mandates, and not just mandates with the coronavirus, but a government takeover of health care,
Thank you,
the
Vice
Green New
President
Deal, all government control. We're about freedom and respecting the freedom of the American people.
Let's talk about respecting the American people. You respect the American people when you tell them the truth. You respect the American people when you have the courage
Which we've
to be a
always
leader
done.
speaking of those things that you may not want people to hear, but they need to hear so they can protect themselves. But this administration stood on information that if you had as a parent, if you had as a worker, knowing you didn't have enough money saved up, and now you're standing in a food line because of the ineptitude of an administration that was unwilling to speak the truth to the American people. So let's talk about caring about the American people. The American people have had to sacrifice far too much because of the incompetence of this administration. It is asking too much of the people.
Susan, we talked
No,
about
Vice
this.
It is
President
asking
Pence.
too much of the people.
Look-
That they would not be equipped with the information they need to help themselves to protect
Susan,
their
the
parents
President-
and
No,
their
I'm
children.
sorry. Kamala Harris, Senator Harris, I'm sorry.
It's
I meant
fine,
to
I'm
say-
Kamala.
No, you're Senator Harris to me. For life to get back to normal, Dr. Anthony Fauci and other experts say that most of the people who can be vaccinated need to be vaccinated. But half of Americans now say they wouldn't take a vaccine if it was released now. If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it, absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Vice President Pence, there have been a lot of repercussions from this pandemic. In recent days, the president's diagnosis of COVID-19 has underscored the importance of the job that you hold and that you are seeking. That's our second topic tonight. It's the role of the vice president. One of you will make history on January 20th. You will be the vice president to the oldest president the United States has ever had. Donald Trump will be 74 years old on Inauguration Day. Joe Biden will be 78 years old. That already has raised concerns among some voters, concerns that have been sharpened by President Trump's hospitalization in recent days. Vice President Pence, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement with President Trump about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes without interruption.
Well, Susan, thank you, although I would like to go back.
I think we need to move on to the issue of
thank you, but I would like to go back because the reality is that we're going to have a vaccine, Senator, in record time, in unheard of time, in less than a year. We have 5 companies in phase 3 clinical trials, and we're right now producing tens of millions of doses. So the fact that you continue to undermine public confidence in a vaccine, if the vaccine emerges during the Trump administration, I think is unconscionable. And Senator, I just ask you, stop playing politics with people's lives. The reality is that we will have a vaccine, we believe, before the end of this year. And it will have the capacity to save countless American lives. And your continuous undermining of confidence in a vaccine is it's just unacceptable. And let me also say, you know, the reality is when you talk about failure in this administration, we actually do know what failure looks like in a pandemic. It was 2009. The swine flu arrived in the United States. Thankfully, it ended up not being as lethal as the coronavirus. But before the end of the year, when Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, not 7.5 million people contracted the swine flu. 60 million Americans contracted the swine flu. If the swine flu had been as lethal as the coronavirus, in 2009, when Joe Biden was vice president, we would have lost 2 million American lives. His own chief of staff, Ron Klain, would say last year that it was pure luck that they did, quote, everything possible wrong. And we learned from that. They left the strategic national stockpile empty. They left an empty and hollow plan, but we still learned from it. And I think the American people, I'm going to say again, can be proud of what we have done. And Senator, please stop undermining confidence in a vaccine.
Senator Harris, let me ask you the same question that I asked Vice President Pence, which is, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement with Vice President Biden about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, and if you win the election next month, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So let me tell you, first of all, the day I got the call from Joe Biden, it was actually a Zoom call, asking me to serve with him on this ticket was probably one of the most memorable days of my life. I thought about my mother, who came to the United States at the age of 19, gave birth to me at the age of 25 at Kaiser Hospital in Oakland, California. And the thought that I'd be sitting here right now, I know would make her proud, and she must be looking down on this. You know, Joe and I were raised in a very similar way. We were raised with values that are about hard work, about the value and the dignity of public service, and about the importance of fighting for the dignity of all people. And I think Joe asked me to serve with him because, you know, I have a career that included being elected the first woman district attorney of San Francisco, where I created models of innovation for law enforcement in terms of reform of the criminal justice system. I was elected the first woman of color and black woman to be elected Attorney General of the state of California, where I ran the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, second only to the United States Department of Justice. And there I took on everything from transnational criminal organizations to the big banks that were taking advantage of homeowners to for-profit colleges that were taking advantage of veterans. And then, of course, now I serve in the United States Senate as only the second black woman ever elected to the United States Senate. I serve on the Senate Intelligence Committee, where I've been in regular receipt of classified information about threats to our nation and hotspots around the world. I've traveled the world. I've met with our soldiers in our in war zones. And I think Joe has asked me to serve with him because he knows that we share a purpose which is about lifting up the American people. And after the 4 years that we have seen of Donald Trump unifying our country around our common values and principles.
Thank you, Senator Harris. You know, neither President Trump nor Vice President Biden has released a sort of detailed health information that had become the modern norm until the 2016 election. And in recent days, President Trump's doctors have given misleading answers or refused to answer basic questions about his health. And my question to each of you in turn is this information voters deserve to know? Vice President Pence, would you like to go first?
Well, Susan, thank you. And let me say, on behalf of the President and the First Lady, how moved we've all been by the outpouring of prayers and concern for the President. And I do believe it's emblematic of the prayers and the concern that have ushered forth for every American impacted by the coronavirus. But the care the President received at Walter Reed Hospital, the White House doctors, was exceptional. And the transparency that they practiced all along the way will continue. The American people have a right to know about the health and well-being of their President, and will continue to do that. But I'm just extremely grateful and was more than a little moved by the broad and bipartisan support. And Senator, I want to thank you and Joe Biden for your expressions of genuine concern. And I also want to congratulate you, as I did on that phone call, on the historic nature of your nomination.
Thank you.
I never expected to be on this stage 4 years ago, so I know the feeling. But the reality is we've got an election before the American people in the midst of this challenging year. And the stakes have never been higher, but I think the choice has never been clearer.
I want to give Senator Harris a chance to respond to the same question I asked, which is, do voters have a right to know more detailed health information about presidential candidates and especially about presidents, especially when they're facing some kind of challenge?
Absolutely, and that's why Joe Biden has been so incredibly transparent, and certainly by contrast, the president has not, both in terms of health records, but also let's look at taxes. We now know, because of great investigative journalism, that Donald Trump paid $750 in taxes. When I first heard about it, I literally said, "You mean $750,000? And it was like, no, $750. We now know Donald Trump owes and is in debt for $400 million. And just so everyone is clear, when we say in debt, it means you owe money to somebody. And it'd be really good to know who the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, owes money to, because the American people have a right to know what is influencing the President's decisions. And is he making those decisions on the best interest of the American people, of you, or self-interest? So, Susan, I'm glad you asked about transparency, because it has to be across the board. Joe has been incredibly transparent over many, many years. The one thing we all know about Joe, he puts it all out there. He is honest, he is forthright. But Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been about covering up everything.
Thank you, Senator Harris. I want to give you a chance to respond, Vice President.
Well, look, I respect the fact that Joe Biden spent 47 years in public life. I respect your public service as well.
Thank you.
But the American people have a president who's a businessman, he's a job creator, who's paid tens of millions of dollars in taxes, payroll taxes, property taxes. He's created tens of thousands of American jobs. And the president said those public reports are not accurate. And the president's also released literally stacks of financial disclosures the American people can review just as the law allows. But the distinction here is that Joe Biden, 47 years in public service, compared to President Donald Trump, who brought all of that experience 4 years ago.
Thank you, Vice
and
President.
turned this economy around by cutting taxes, rolling back regulation, unleashing American energy, fighting for free and fair trade, and all of that's on the line if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
You know, that's a good segue into our third topic, which is about the economy. This has been another aspect of life for Americans that's been so affected by this coronavirus. We have a jobs crisis brewing. On Friday, we learned that the unemployment rate had declined to 7.9% in September, but that job growth had stalled, and that was before the latest round of layoffs and furloughs in the airline industry at Disney and elsewhere. Hundreds of thousands of discouraged workers have stopped looking for work. Nearly 11 million jobs that existed at the beginning of the year haven't been replaced. Those hardest hit include Latinos, Blacks, and women. Senator Harris, the Biden-Harris campaign has proposed new programs to boost the economy, and you would pay for that new spending by raising $4 trillion in taxes on wealthy individuals and corporations. Some economists warn that could curb entrepreneurial ventures that fuel growth and create jobs. Would raising taxes put the recovery at risk? And you have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
Thank you. On the issue of the economy, I think there couldn't be a more fundamental difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Joe Biden believes you measure the health and the strength of America's economy based on the health and the strength of the American worker and the American family. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who measures the strength of the economy based on how rich people are doing, which is why he passed a tax bill benefiting the top 1% and the biggest corporations of America, leading to a $2 trillion deficit that the American people are going to have to pay for. On day one, Joe Biden will repeal that tax bill. He'll get rid of it. And what he'll do with the money is invest it in the American people. And through a plan that is about investing in infrastructure, something that Donald Trump said he would do. I remember hearing about some infrastructure week. I don't think it ever happened. But Joe Biden will do that. He'll invest in infrastructure. It's about upgrading our roads and bridges, but also investing in clean energy and renewable energy. Joe is going to invest that money in what we need to do around innovation. There was a time when our country believed in science and invested in research and development so that we were an innovation leader on the globe. Joe Biden will use that money to invest in education. So, for example, for folks who want to go to a 2-year community college, it will be free. If you come from a family that makes less than $125,000, you'll go to a public university for free. And across the board, we'll make sure that if you have student loan debt, it's cut by $10,000. That's how Joe Biden thinks about the economy, which is it's about investing in the people of our country as opposed to passing a tax bill, which had the benefit of letting American corporations go offshore to do their business.
Thank you,
You're
Senator
welcome.
Harris. Vice President Pence, your administration has been predicting a rapid and robust recovery, but the latest economic report suggests that's not happening. Should Americans be braced for an economic comeback that is going to take not months, but a year or more? You have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
When President Trump and I took office, America had gone through the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression. Because when Joe Biden was vice president, they tried to tax and spend and regulate and bail our way back to a growing economy. President Trump cut taxes across the board. Despite what Senator Harris says, the average American family of 4 had $2,000 in savings in taxes. And with the rise in wages that occurred, most predominantly for blue-collar, hardworking Americans, the average household income for a family of 4 increased by $4,000 following President Trump's tax cuts. But America, you just heard Senator Harris tell you, on day one, Joe Biden's going to raise your taxes. It's really remarkable to think, Susan. I mean, right after a time where we're going through a pandemic that lost 22 million jobs at the height, we've already added back 11.6 million jobs because we had a president who cut taxes, rolled back regulation, unleashed American energy, fought for free and fair trade, and secured $4 trillion from the Congress of the United States to give direct payments to families, save 50 million jobs through the Paycheck Protection Program. We literally have spared no expense to help the American people and the American worker through this. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to raise taxes. They want to bury our economy under a $2 trillion Green New Deal, which you were one of the original co-sponsors of in the United States Senate. They want to abolish fossil fuels and ban fracking, which would cost hundreds of thousands of American jobs all across the heartland. And Joe Biden wants to go back to the economic surrender to China, that when we took office, half of our international trade deficit was with China alone. And Joe Biden wants to repeal all of the tariffs that President Trump put into effect to fight for American jobs and American workers. Joe Biden says democracy's on the ballot. Make no mistake about it, Susan. The American economy, the American comeback is on the ballot with 4 more years of growth and opportunity, 4 more years of President Donald Trump. 2021 is going to be the biggest economic year in the history of this country.
Thank you, Vice President Pence. Senator Harris.
Well, I mean, I thought we saw enough of it in last week's debate, but I think this is supposed to be a debate based on fact and truth. And the truth and the fact is Joe Biden has been very clear. He will not raise taxes on anybody who makes less than $400,000 a year.
He said he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well, wait,
I'm speaking.
It'd be important if you said the truth. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. That was tax cuts that gave the average working family $2,000 in a tax break every single year. Senator,
that is
that's the math.
absolutely not true. That
is he only going to repeal part of the Trump tax cuts?
If you don't mind letting me finish, we can then have a conversation, okay?
Please.
Okay. Joe Biden will not raise taxes on anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. He has been very clear about that. Joe Biden will not end fracking. He has been very clear about that. Joe Biden is the one who, during the Great Recession, was responsible for the Recovery Act that brought America back. And now the Trump-Pence administration wants to take credit when they rode the coattails of Joe Biden's success for the economy that they had at the beginning of their term. Of course, now the economy is a complete disaster. But Joe Biden, on the one hand, did that. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who has reigned over a recession that is being compared to the Great Depression. On the one hand, you have Joe Biden, who was responsible with President Barack Obama for the Affordable Care Act, which brought health care to over 20 million Americans and protected people with pre-existing conditions. And what it also did is it saved those families who otherwise were going bankrupt because of hospital bills they could not afford. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who's in court right now, trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which means that you will lose protections if you have pre-existing conditions. And this is very important, Susan.
Yes,
and it's
but
important.
we need to give Vice President.
He interrupted me, and I'd like to just finish, please. If you have a pre-existing condition, heart disease, diabetes, breast cancer, they're coming for you. If you love someone who has a pre-existing condition, they're coming for you. If you are under the age of 26 on your parents' coverage, they're coming for you.
Senator Harris, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me give you a chance to respond.
Well, I hope we have a chance to talk about health care because Obamacare was a disaster. The American people remember it well. And President Trump and I have a plan to improve health care and to protect pre-existing conditions for every American. But look, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. You yourself said on multiple occasions when you were running for president that you would ban fracking. Joe Biden looked at a supporter in the eye and pointed and said, I guarantee that we will abolish fossil fuels. They have a $2 trillion version of the Green New Deal, Susan, that your newspaper, USA Today, said really wasn't that very different from the original Green New Deal. More taxes, more regulation, banning fracking, abolishing fossil fuel, crushing American energy, and economic surrender to China is a prescription for economic decline. President Trump and I will keep America growing. The V-shaped recovery that's underway right now will continue with 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House.
Thank you very, very much, Vice President Pence. Once again, you've provided the perfect segue to a new topic, which is climate change. And Vice President Pence, I'd like to pose the first question to you. This year, we've seen record-setting hurricanes in the South. Another one, Hurricane Delta, is now threatening the Gulf. And we have seen record-setting wildfires in the West. Do you believe, as the scientific community has concluded, that man-made climate change has made wildfires bigger, hotter, and more deadly, and have made hurricanes wetter, slower, and more damaging? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan. Well, first, I'm very proud of our record on the environment and on conservation. According to all of the best estimates, our air and land are cleaner than any time ever recorded. Our water is among the cleanest in the world. And just a little while ago, the president signed the Outdoors Act. It's the largest investment in our public lands and public parks in 100 years. So President Trump has made a commitment to conservation and to the environment. Now, with regard to climate change, the climate is changing. But the issue is, what's the cause and what do we do about it? President Trump has made it clear that we're going to continue to listen to the science. Now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would put us back in the Paris Climate Accord. They'd impose the Green New Deal, which would crush American energy, would increase the energy costs of American families in their homes, and literally would crush American jobs. And President Trump and I believe that the progress that we have made in a cleaner environment has been happening precisely because we have a strong free market economy. You know, what's remarkable is the United States has reduced CO2 more than the countries that are still in the Paris Climate Accord, but we've done it through innovation, and we've done it through natural gas and fracking, which, Senator, the American people can go look at the record. I know Joe Biden says otherwise now, as you do, but the both of you repeatedly committed to abolishing fossil fuel and banning fracking. And so by creating the kind of American innovation, we're actually steering toward a stronger and better environment. With regard to wildfires, President Trump and I believe that forest management has to be front and center, and even Governor Gavin Newsom from your state has agreed we've got to work on forest management. And with regard to hurricanes, the National Oceanic Administration tells us that actually as difficult as they are,
Thank you, Vice President.
There are no more hurricanes today than there were 100 years ago.
Thank you.
But many of the climate alarmists
Pence,
use hurricanes and wildfires to try and sell their bill of goods of a Green New Deal. And President Trump and I are going to always put American jobs and American workers first.
Senator Harris, as the Vice President mentioned, you co-sponsored the Green New Deal in Congress. But Vice President Biden said in last week's debate that he does not support the Green New Deal. But if you look at the Biden-Harris campaign website, it describes the Green New Deal as a crucial framework. What exactly would be the stance of a Biden-Harris administration toward the Green New Deal? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. So first of all, I will repeat, and the American people know, that Joe Biden will not ban fracking. That is a fact. That is a fact. I will repeat that Joe Biden has been very clear that he thinks about growing jobs, which is why he will not increase taxes for anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. Joe Biden's economic plan, Moody's, which is a reputable Wall Street firm, has said will create 7 million more jobs than Donald Trump's. And part of those jobs that will be created by Joe Biden are going to be about clean energy and renewable energy. Because you see, Joe understands that the west coast of our country is burning, including my home state of California. Joe sees what is happening on the Gulf states, which are being battered by storms. Joe has seen and talked with the farmers in Iowa, whose entire crops have been destroyed because of floods. And so Joe believes, again, in science. I'll tell you something, Susan. I served, when I first got to the Senate, on the committee that's responsible for the environment. Do you know this administration took the word science off the website and then took the phrase climate change off the website? We have seen a pattern with this administration, which is they don't believe in science. And Joe's plan is about saying we're going to deal with it, but we're also going to create jobs. Donald Trump, when asked about the wildfires in California, and the question was, you know, the science is telling us this, you know what Donald Trump said? Science doesn't know. So let's talk about who is prepared to lead our country over the course of the next 4 years on what is an existential threat to us as human beings. Joe is about saying we're going to invest that in renewable energy. It's going to be about the creation of millions of jobs. We will achieve net zero emissions by 2050, carbon neutral by 2035. Joe has a plan. This has been a lot of talk from the Trump administration, and really it has been to go backward instead of forward. We will also re-enter the climate agreement with pride.
Senator Harris just said that climate change is an existential threat. Vice President Pence, do you believe that climate change poses an existential threat?
As I said, Susan, the climate is changing. We'll follow the science. But Once again, Senator Harris is denying the fact that they're going to raise taxes on every American. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that on day one he was going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. Those tax cuts delivered $2,000 in tax relief to the average family of four across America. And with regard to banning fracking, I just recommend that people look at the record. You yourself said repeatedly that you would ban fracking. You were the first Senate co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. And while Joe Biden denied the Green New Deal, Susan, thank you for pointing out, the Green New Deal is on their campaign website. And as USA Today said, it's essentially the same plan as you co-sponsored with AOC when she submitted it in the Senate. And you just heard the senator say that she's going to resubmit America to the Paris Climate Accord. Look, the American people have always cherished our environment. We'll continue to cherish it. We've made great progress reducing CO2 emissions through American innovation and the development of natural gas through fracking. We don't need a massive $2 trillion Green New Deal that would impose all new mandates on American businesses and American families.
Thank you.
Joe Biden wants us to retrofit 4 million American business buildings. It makes no sense. It will cost jobs. President Trump is going to put America first. He's going to put jobs first, and we're going to take care of our environment and follow the science.
Thank you,
But, on the issue of jobs,
Senator Harris.
Let's talk about that. The vice president earlier referred to, as part of what he thinks is an accomplishment, the president's trade war with China. You lost that trade war. You lost it. What ended up happening is because of a so-called trade war with China, America lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs. Farmers have experienced bankruptcy because of it. We are in a manufacturing recession because of it. And when we look at where this administration has been, there are estimates that by the end of the term of this administration, they will have lost more jobs than almost any other presidential administration. And the American people know what I'm talking about. You know, I think about 20-year-olds. You know, we have a 20-year-old, a 20-something-year-old, who are coming out of high school and college right now, and you're wondering, is there going to be a job there for me? We're looking at people who are trying to figure out how they're going to pay rent by the end of the month. Almost half of American renters are worried about whether they're going to be able to pay rent by the end of the month. This is where the economy is in America right now, and it is because of the catastrophe and the failure of leadership of this administration.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me give you just 15 seconds to respond, because then I want to move on to
Well, I'd love to respond. Look, lost the trade war with China. Joe Biden never fought it. Joe Biden has been a cheerleader for communist China over the last several decades. And again, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts. When Joe Biden was vice president, we lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs, and President Obama said they were never coming back. He said we needed a magic wand to bring them back. In our first 3 years after we cut taxes, rolled back regulation, unleashed American energy, this administration saw 500,000 manufacturing jobs created. And that's exactly the kind of growth we're going to continue to see as we bring our nation through this pandemic. But a Green New Deal, your massive new mandates, your Paris Climate Accord, it's going to kill jobs this time, just like it killed jobs.
I just need to respond very briefly,
15 seconds, and then we'll move on.
Thank you. Joe Biden is responsible for saving America's auto industry, and you voted against it. So let's set the record straight. Thank you.
I'd like to talk about China. We have, as our next topic, we have no more complicated or consequential foreign relationship than the one with China. It is a huge market for American agricultural goods. It's a potential partner in dealing with climate change in North Korea. And in a video tonight, President Trump again blamed it for the coronavirus, saying China will pay. Vice President Pence, how would you describe our fundamental relationship with China? Competitors, adversaries, enemies? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Susan. Well, before I leave that, let me speak to voting records if I can. You know, everybody knows that NAFTA cost literally thousands of American factories to close. We saw automotive jobs go south of the border. President Trump fought to renegotiate NAFTA. And the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement is now the law of the land. American people deserve to know Senator Kamala Harris was one of only 10 members of the Senate to vote against the USMCA. It was a huge win for American auto workers. It was a huge win for American farmers, especially dairy in the upper Midwest. But Senator, you said it didn't go far enough on climate change, that you put your radical environmental agenda ahead of American auto workers and ahead of American jobs. The American people deserve to know that. It's probably why Newsweek magazine said that Kamala Harris was the most liberal member of the United States Senate in 2019, more liberal than Bernie Sanders, more liberal than any of the others in the United States Senate. So now with regard to China, look, Susan, first and foremost, China is to blame for the coronavirus. And President Trump is not happy about it. He's made that very clear, made it clear again today. China and the World Health Organization did not play straight with the American people. They did not let our personnel into China to get information on the coronavirus until the middle of February. Fortunately, President Trump, in dealing with China from the outset of this administration, standing up to China that had been taking advantage of America for decades in the wake of Joe Biden's cheerleading for China, President Trump made that decision before the end of January to suspend all travel from China. And again, the American people deserve to know Joe Biden opposed President Trump's decision to suspend all travel from China. He said it was hysterical. He said it was xenophobic.
Vice President Pence.
But President Trump has stood up to China. We're going to continue to stand strong.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
We want to improve the relationship, but we're going to level the playing field, and we're going to hold China accountable for what they did to America with the coronavirus.
Thank you. Senator Harris, let me ask you the same question that I asked the Vice President. How would you describe our fundamental relationship with China? Are we competitors, adversaries, enemies? You'll have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Susan, the Trump administration's perspective and approach to China has resulted in the loss of American lives, American jobs, and America's standing. There's a weird obsession that President Trump has had with getting rid of whatever accomplishment was achieved by President Obama and Vice President Biden. For example, they created within the White House an office that basically was responsible for monitoring pandemics. They got rid of it.
Not true.
There was a team of disease experts that President Obama and Vice President Biden dispatched to China to monitor what is now predictable and what might happen. They pulled them out. We now are looking at 210,000 Americans who have lost their lives. Let's look at the job situation. We mentioned before the trade deal, the trade war, they wanted to call it, with China. It resulted in the loss of over 300 manufacturing jobs and a manufacturing recession, and the American consumer paying thousands of dollars more for goods because of that failed war that they called it. Then let's talk about standing. Pew, a reputable research firm, has done an analysis that shows that leaders of all of our formerly allied countries have now decided that they hold in greater esteem and respect Xi Jinping, the head of the Chinese Communist Party, than they do Donald Trump, the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief of the United States. This is where we are today because of a failure of leadership by this administration.
Senator Harris, we've seen changes in the role of the United States in terms of global leadership over the past 4 years. And of course, times do change. What's your definition? We've seen strains with China, of course, as the Vice President mentioned. We've seen strains with our traditional allies in NATO and elsewhere. What is your definition of the role of American leadership in 2020?
So you know, Joe is, I love talking with Joe about a lot of these issues. And, you know, Joe, I think he said it quite well. He says, you know, foreign policy, it might sound complicated, but really it's relationships. So just think about it as relationships. And so we know this in our personal and professional relationships. You got to keep your word to your friends. Got to be loyal to your friends. People who've stood with you, got to stand with them. You got to know who your adversaries are and keep them in check. But what we have seen with Donald Trump is that he has betrayed our friends and embraced dictators around the world. Let's take, for example, Russia. So Russia, I serve on the Intelligence Committee of the United States Senate. America's intelligence community told us Russia interfered in the election of the President of the United States in 2016 and is playing in 2020. Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, said the same. But Donald Trump, the commander-in-chief of the United States of America, prefers to take the word of Vladimir Putin over the word of the American intelligence community. You look at our friends at NATO. He has walked away from agreements. You can look at the Iran nuclear deal, which now has put us in a position where we are less safe because they are building up what might end up being a significant nuclear arsenal. We were in that deal, guys. We were in the Iran nuclear deal with friends, with allies around the country. And because of Donald Trump's unilateral approach to foreign policy, coupled with his isolationism, he pulled us out and has made America less safe. So, Susan, it's about relationships. And the thing that has always been part of the strength of our nation, in addition to our great military, has been that we keep our word. But Donald Trump doesn't understand that because he doesn't understand what it means to be honest.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me give you a chance to respond.
Well, thank you. Well, President Trump kept his word when we moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, the capital of the state of Israel. When Joe Biden was vice president, they promised to do that, and they never did. We've stood strong with our allies, but we've been demanding. NATO is now contributing more to our common defense than ever before, thanks to President Trump's leadership. We've strengthened our alliances across the Asia-Pacific, and we've stood strong against those who would do us harm. You know, when President Trump came into office, ISIS had captured an area of the Middle East the size of Pennsylvania. But President Trump unleashed the American military, and our armed forces destroyed the ISIS caliphate and took down their leader, al-Baghdadi, without one American casualty. Al-Baghdadi was responsible for the death of thousands. But notably, America's hearts today are with the family of Kayla Mueller, her parents of which are here with us tonight in Salt Lake City. Today, two of the ISIS killers responsible for Kayla Mueller's murder were brought to justice in the United States. Jihadi John was killed on the battlefield along with the other beetle. The reality is that when Joe Biden was vice president, we had an opportunity to save Kayla Mueller. It breaks my heart to reflect on it, but the military came into the Oval Office, presented a plan. They said they knew where Kayla was. Baghdadi had held her for 18 months, abused her mercilessly before they killed her. But when Joe Biden was vice president, they hesitated for a month. And when armed forces finally went in, it was clear she'd been moved 2 days earlier. And her family says with a heart that broke the heart of every American that if President Donald Trump had been president, they believe Kayla would be alive today.
Thank you, Vice
Look,
President.
we destroyed the ISIS caliphate. And you talk about re-entering the Iran nuclear deal. I mean, the last administration transferred $1.8 billion to the leading state sponsor
Thank you, Vice
of
President
terrorism.
Pence.
President Donald Trump got us out of the deal.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
And when Qasem Soleimani was traveling to Baghdad to do harm to Americans, President Donald Trump took him out.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
And America is safer, our allies are safer, and the American people know President Donald Trump will never hesitate
Thank you, Vice President
to take
Pence.
action.
I would like to give Senator Harris a chance to respond, but not at such great length, because of course there are other topics we want to talk about.
But I would like equal time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
First of all, to the Mueller family, I know about your daughter's case, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What happened to her is awful, and it should have never happened. And I know Joe feels the same way. And I know that President Obama feels the same way. But you mentioned Soleimani. Let's start there. So after the strike on Soleimani, there was a counter strike on our troops in Iraq. And they suffered serious brain injuries. And do you know what Donald Trump dismissed them as? Headaches. And this is about a pattern of Donald Trump's, where he has referred to our men who are serving in our military as suckers and losers. Donald Trump, who went to Arlington Cemetery and stood above the graves of our fallen heroes and said, what's in it for them? Because, of course, he only thinks about what's in it for him. Let's take what he said about John McCain, a great American hero. And Donald Trump says he doesn't deserve to be called a hero because he was a prisoner of war. And this is very important when you want to talk about who is the current commander-in-chief and what they care about and what they don't care about. Public reporting that Russia had bounties on the heads of American soldiers. And you know what a bounty is? It's somebody puts a price on your head and they will pay it if you are killed. And Donald Trump had talked at least 6 times to Vladimir Putin and never brought up the subject. Joe Biden would never do that.
Thank you.
Joe Biden would, but Joe Biden would hold Russia to account for any threat to our nation's security or to our troops who are sacrificing their lives for the sake of our democracy and our safety.
Thank you, Senator Harris. This is such an important issue, but we have other important issues as well. And
Susan,
I want to make sure we have a chance
I really have to
talk
respond
about.
to that. Look, she has
15 seconds because
well, I got to have
trying
more
to
than
keep,
that. Look,
well, I'm sorry, but Vice President Pence, you've had more time than she's had so far.
The slanders against President Donald Trump regarding men and women of our armed forces are absurd.
I'm sorry, Vice President Pence.
My son is a captain in the United States Marine Corps. My son-in-law is deployed in the United States Navy. I can assure all of you, with sons and daughters serving in our military, President Donald Trump not only respects but reveres all of those who serve in our armed forces, and any suggestion otherwise is ridiculous.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
The American people deserve, Susan, the American people deserve to know.
Vice President Pence, I did not, excuse me,
Susan,
I did not create the rules for tonight.
Joe Biden.
Your campaigns agreed to the rules for tonight's debate with the Commission on Presidential Debates. I'm here to enforce them, which involves moving from one topic to another, giving roughly equal time to both of you, which is what I'm trying very hard to do.
Go right ahead.
So I want to go ahead and move to the next topic, which is an important one, as the last topic was, and that is the Supreme Court. On Monday, the Senate Judiciary Committee is scheduled to open hearings on Amy Coney Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court. Senator Harris, you'll be there as a member of the committee. Yes. Her confirmation would cement the court's conservative majority and make it likely open to more abortion restrictions, even to overturning the landmark Roe v. Wade ruling. Access to abortion would then be up to the states. Vice President Pence, you're the former governor of Indiana. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want Indiana to do? Would you want your home state to ban all abortions? You have 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
Well, thank you for the question, but I'll use a little bit of my time to respond to that very important issue before. The American people deserve to know Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general, was responsible for the death of hundreds of American service members. When the opportunity came, we saw him headed to Baghdad to kill more Americans. President Trump didn't hesitate, and Qasem Soleimani is gone. But you deserve to know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris actually criticized the decision to take out Qasem Soleimani. It's really inexplicable, but with regard to Joe Biden, it's explainable. Because history records that Joe Biden actually opposed the raid against Osama bin Laden. It's absolutely essential that we have a commander-in-chief who will not hesitate to act to protect American lives and to protect American service members, and that's what you have in President Donald Trump. Now, with regard to the Supreme Court of the United States, let me say President Trump and I could not be more enthusiastic about the opportunity to see Judge Amy Coney Barrett become Justice Amy Coney Barrett. She's a brilliant woman, and she will bring a lifetime of experience and a sizable American family to the Supreme Court of the United States. And our hope is, in the hearing next week, unlike Justice Kavanaugh received with treatment from you and others, we hope she gets a fair hearing. And we particularly hope that we don't see the kind of attacks on her Christian faith that we saw before. I mean, the Democrat chairman of the Judiciary Committee before, when Judge Barrett was being confirmed for the Court of Appeals, expressed concern that the dogma of her faith lived loudly in her. Dick Durbin of Illinois said that it was a concern. Senator, I know one of our judicial nominees you actually attacked because they were a member of the Catholic Knights of Columbus, just because the Knights of Columbus holds pro-life views and pro-marriage views.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
So
Your
my
time
hope
is
is
up.
that when the hearing takes place,
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
that Judge Amy Coney Barrett will be respected,
Thank you,
treated
Vice President
respectfully,
Pence.
voted and confirmed
Thank
to the
you.
Supreme Court of the United States.
Senator Harris, you're the senator from and former Attorney General of California. So let me ask you a parallel question to the one I posed to the Vice President. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want California to do? Would you want your home state to enact no restrictions on access to abortion? And you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan. First of all, Joe Biden and I are both people of faith, and it's insulting to suggest that we would knock anyone for their faith. And in fact, Joe, if elected, will be only the second practicing Catholic as President of the United States. On the issue of this nomination, Joe and I are very clear, as are the majority of the American people. We are 27 days before the decision about who will be the next president of the United States. And, you know, before, when this conversation has come up, you know, it's been about election year or election time. We're literally in an election. Over 4 million people have voted. People are in the process of voting right now. And so Joe has been very clear, as the American people are. Let the American people fill that seat in the White House, and then we'll fill that seat on the United States Supreme Court. And to your point, Susan, the issues before us couldn't be more serious. There's the issue of choice, and I will always fight for a woman's right to make a decision about her own body. It should be her decision and not that of Donald Trump and the Vice President, Michael Pence. But let's also look at what else is before the court. It's the Affordable Care Act. Like, literally in the midst of a public health pandemic, when over 210,000 people have died and 7 million people probably have what will be in the future considered a pre-existing condition because you contracted the virus. Donald Trump is in court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And I said it before, and it bears repeating. This means that there will be no more protections, if they win, for people with pre-existing conditions. No. This means that over 20 million people will lose your coverage. It means that if you're under the age of 26, you can't stay on your parents' coverage anymore. And here's the thing. The contrast couldn't be more clear. They're trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. Joe Biden is saying, let's expand coverage. Let's give you a choice of a public option or private coverage. Let's bring down premiums.
Thank you, Senator
Let's
Harris.
lower Medicare eligibility to 60.
Thank you, Senator
That's true
Harris.
leadership.
You know, you mentioned earlier, Vice President Pence, that the president was committed to maintaining protections for people with pre-existing conditions. But you do have this court case that you are supporting, your administration supporting, that would strike down the Affordable Care Act. The president says, President Trump says that he's going to protect people with pre-existing conditions, but he has not explained how he would do that. And that was one of the toughest nuts to crack when they were passing the Affordable Care Act. So tell us specifically, how would your administration protect Americans with pre-existing conditions to have access to affordable insurance if the Affordable Care Act is struck down?
Well, thank you, Susan. But let me just say, addressing your very first question, I couldn't be more proud to serve as vice president to a president who stands without apology for the sanctity of human life. I'm pro-life. I don't apologize for it. And this is another one of those cases where there's such a dramatic contrast. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris support taxpayer funding of abortion all the way up to the moment of birth, late-term abortion. They want to increase funding to Planned Parenthood of America. Now, for our part, I would never presume how Judge Amy Coney Barrett would rule on the Supreme Court of the United States, but we'll continue to stand strong for the right to life. When you speak about the Supreme Court, though, I think the American people really deserve an answer, Senator Harris. Are you and Joe Biden going to pack the court if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed? I mean, there have been 29 vacancies on the Supreme Court during presidential election years, from George Washington to Barack Obama. Presidents have nominated in all 29 cases. But your party is actually openly advocating adding seats to the Supreme Court, which has had 9 seats for 150 years, if you don't get your way. This is a classic case of if you can't win by the rules, you're going to change the rules. Now, you've refused to answer the question. Joe Biden has refused to answer the question. So I think the American people would really like to know, if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed to the Supreme Court of the United States, are you and Joe Biden, if somehow you win this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way?
I'm so glad we went through a little history lesson. Let's do that a little more. In 1864...
Well, I'd like you to answer the question.
No, Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking. Okay. In 1864, one of the, I think, political heroes, certainly of the president, I assume of you also, Mr. Vice President, is Abraham Lincoln. Mm-hmm. Abraham Lincoln was up for re-election, and it was 27 days before the election, and a seat became open on the United States Supreme Court. Abraham Lincoln's party was in charge not only of the White House, but the Senate. But Honest Abe said it's not the right thing to do. The American people deserve to make the decision about who will be the next president of the United States, and then that person can select who will serve for a lifetime on the highest court of our land. And so Joe and I are very clear. The American people are voting right now, and it should be their decision about who will serve on this most important body for a lifetime.
Thank you,
and
Senator
the
Harris.
People, Susan, are voting right now. They'd like to know if you and Joe Biden are going to pack the Supreme Court if you don't get your way in this nomination.
Let's talk about packing.
You once again gave a non-answer. Joe Biden gave a non-answer.
Trying to answer you now.
The American people deserve a straight answer. And if you haven't figured it out yet, the straight answer is they are going to pack the Supreme Court if they somehow win this election. Men and women, I got to tell you, people across this country, if you cherish our Supreme Court, if you cherish the separation of powers, you need to reject the Biden-Harris ticket. Come November the 3rd, re-elect President Donald Trump, and we'll stand by that separation of powers in a 9-seat Supreme Court.
Yeah, let's talk about packing the court then. Let's talk about the fact. Yeah, I'm about to. So the Trump-Pence administration has been, because I sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Susan, as you mentioned, and I've witnessed the appointments for lifetime appointments to the federal courts, district courts, courts of appeal. People who are purely ideological, people who have been reviewed by legal professional organizations and found to have been not competent, are substandard. And do you know that of the 50 people who President Trump appointed to the Court of Appeals for lifetime appointments, not one is black? This is what they've been doing. You want to talk about packing a court? Let's have that discussion.
All right, thank you, Senator. Let's go on and talk about the issue of racial justice.
I just want the record to reflect she never answered the question. So maybe the next debate, Joe Biden will answer the question, but I think the American people know the answer.
Thank you, Vice President. In March, Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old emergency room technician in Louisville, was shot and killed after police officers executing a search warrant in a narcotics investigation broke into her apartment. The police said they identified themselves. Taylor's boyfriend said he didn't hear them do that. He used a gun registered to him to fire a shot, which wounded an officer. The officers then fired more than 20 rounds into the apartment. They say they were acting in self-defense. None of them have been indicted in connection with her death. Senator Harris, in the case of Breonna Taylor, was justice done? You have 2 minutes.
I don't believe so, and I've talked with Breonna's mother, Tamika Palmer, and her family. And her family deserves justice. She was a beautiful young woman. She had as her life goal to become a nurse, and she wanted to become an EMT to first learn what's going on out on the street so she could then become a nurse and save lives. And her life was taken unjustifiably and tragically and violently. And it brings me to, you know, the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that America witnessed, during which an American man was tortured and killed under the knee of an armed, uniformed police officer. And people around our country of every race, of every age, of every gender, perfect strangers to each other, marched shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm, fighting for us to finally achieve that ideal of equal justice under law. And I was a part of those peaceful protests. And I believe strongly that, first of all, we are never going to condone violence, but we always must fight for the values that we hold dear, including the fight to achieve our ideals. And that's why Joe Biden and I have said on this subject, look, and I'm a former career prosecutor. I know what I'm talking about. Bad cops are bad for good cops. We need reform of our policing in America and our criminal justice system, which is why Joe and I will immediately ban chokeholds and carotid holds. George Floyd would be alive today if we did that. We will require a national registry for police officers who break the law. We will, on the issue of criminal justice reform, get rid of private prisons and cash bail, and we will decriminalize marijuana, and we will expunge the records of those who have been convicted of marijuana. This is a time for leadership on a tragic issue of unarmed Black people in America who have been killed.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me pose the same question to you. In the case of Breonna Taylor, was justice done? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Well, our heart breaks for the loss of any innocent American life. And the family of Breonna Taylor has our sympathies. But I trust our justice system, a grand jury that refused the evidence. And it really is remarkable that as a former prosecutor, you would assume that an impaneled grand jury looking at all the evidence got it wrong. But you're entitled to your opinion, Senator. I think, look, and with regard to George Floyd, there's no excuse for what happened to George Floyd. And justice will be served. But there's also no excuse for the rioting and looting that followed. I mean, it really is astonishing. Flora Westbrook is with us here tonight in Salt Lake City. Just a few weeks ago, I stood at what used to be her salon. It was burned to the ground by rioters and looters. And Flora is still trying to put her life back together. And I must tell you, this presumption that you hear consistently from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, that America is systemically racist, and that, as Joe Biden said, that he believes that law enforcement has an implicit bias against minorities, is a great insult to the men and women who serve in law enforcement. And I want everyone to know who puts on the uniform of law enforcement every day that President Trump and I stand with you. And it is remarkable that when Senator Tim Scott tried to pass a police reform bill, brought together a group of Republicans and Democrats, Senator Harris, you got up and walked out of the room. And then you filibustered Senator Tim Scott's bill on the Senate floor that would have provided new accountability, new resources. Look, we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement, improving public safety, and supporting our African American neighbors and all of our minorities. Under President Trump's leadership, we'll always stand with law enforcement, and we'll do what we've done from day one, and that is improve the lives of African Americans.
Thank you, Vice President
Record unemployment, record investments in
Pence, your time
education,
is
and we'll
up.
fight for school choice for all of our minorities.
Thank you, Vice
I'd
President.
like to respond.
Senator Harris.
I will not sit here and be lectured by the Vice President on what it means to enforce the laws of our country. I am the only one on this stage who was personally prosecuted, everything from child sexual assault to homicide. I'm the only one on this stage who has prosecuted the big banks for taking advantage of America's homeowners. I'm the only one on this stage who prosecuted for-profit colleges for taking advantage of our veterans. And the reality of this is that we are talking about an election in 27 days, where last week the President of the United States took a debate stage in front of 70 million Americans and refused to condemn white supremacists.
Not true.
And
Not true.
it wasn't like he didn't have a chance. He didn't do it, and then he doubled down. And then he said, when pressed, stand back, stand by. And this is a part of a pattern of Donald Trump's. He called Mexicans rapists and criminals. He instituted as his first act a Muslim ban. On the issue of Charlottesville, where people were peacefully protesting the need for racial justice, where a young woman was killed, and on the other side there were neo-Nazis carrying tiki torches, shouting racial epithets, anti-Semitic slurs. And Donald Trump, when asked about it, said there were fine people on both sides. This is who we have as the President of the United States. And America, you deserve better. Joe Biden will be a president who brings our country together.
Senator Harris,
and recognizes the beauty in our diversity and the fact that we
Senator
all
Harris,
have so much more in common than what separates us.
Vice President Pence, let me give you a minute to respond.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that very much. You know, I think this is one of the things that makes people dislike the media so much in this country, Susan, is that you selectively edit, just like Senator Harris did, comments that President Trump and I and others on our side of the aisle make. I mean, Senator Harris conveniently omitted, after the president made comments about people on either side of the debate over monuments, he condemned the KKK, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists, and has done so repeatedly. You're concerned that he doesn't condemn neo-Nazis. President Trump has Jewish grandchildren. His daughter and son-in-law are Jewish. This is a president who respects and cherishes all of the American people. But you talk about having personally prosecuted. I'm glad you brought up your record, Senator.
Thank you.
But I really need to make this point. When you were DA in San Francisco, when you left office, African Americans were 19 times more likely to be prosecuted for minor drug offenses than whites and Hispanics. When you were Attorney General of California, you increased the disproportionate incarceration of blacks in California. You did nothing on criminal justice reform in California. You didn't lift a finger to pass the First Step Act on Capitol Hill. I mean, the reality is your record speaks for itself. President Trump and I have fought for criminal justice reform.
Thank you, Vice President
We've fought for educational choice and opportunities for African Americans, all of our members.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll do it for 4 more
Thank you.
years.
You know, there is no more important issue than the final issue that we're going to talk about tonight, and that is the issue of the election itself.
Susan, he attacked my record. I would like an opportunity to respond.
Let me give you 30 seconds because we're running out of time.
I appreciate that. First of all, having served as the Attorney General of the state of California, the work that I did is a model of what our nation needs to do, and we will be able to do under a Joe Biden presidency. Our agenda includes what this administration has failed to do. It will be about not only instituting a ban on chokeholds and carotid holes.
Thank you.
Not only.
Thank you, Senator
I
Harris.
would like to go through.
These are points that you made earlier in the hour, and I want to talk about the election itself before we have to.
But I want to talk about the connection between what Joe and I will do and my record, which includes I was the first statewide officer to institute a requirement that my agents would wear body cameras and keep them on full time. We were the first to initiate a requirement that there would be a training for law enforcement on implicit bias because, yes, Joe Biden and I recognize that implicit bias does exist, Mr. Vice President, contrary to what you may believe. We did the work of instituting reforms that were about investing in reentry. This is the work that we have done and the work we will do going forward. And again, I will not be lectured by the Vice President on our record of what we have done in terms of law enforcement and keeping our communities safe, and a commitment to reforming the criminal justice system of America.
Thank you, Senator Harris. And I'd like to I'd like you to respond first to the question on our final topic, the election itself. President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If your ticket wins and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what steps would you and Vice President Biden then take? What would happen next? You have 2 minutes.
So I'll tell you, Joe and I are, I think, particularly proud of the coalition that we've built around our campaign. We probably have one of the broadest coalitions of folks that you've ever seen in a presidential race. Of course, we have the support of Democrats, but also independents and Republicans. In fact, 7 members of President George W. Bush's cabinet are supporting our ticket. We have the support of Colin Powell, Cindy McCain, John Kasich, over 500 generals, retired generals, and former national security experts and advisors are supporting our campaign. And I believe they are doing that because they know that Joe Biden has a deep, deep-seated commitment to fight for our democracy and to fight for the integrity of our democracy and to bring integrity back to the White House. And so we believe in the American people. We believe in our democracy. And here's what I'd like to say to everybody. Vote. Please vote. Vote early. Come up with a plan to vote. Go to iwillvote.com. You can also go to joebiden.com. We have it within our power in these next 27 days to make the decision about what will be the course of our country for the next 4 years. And it is within our power, and if we use our vote and we use our voice, we will win. And we will not let anyone subvert our democracy with what Donald Trump has been doing, as he did on the debate stage last week, when again in front of 70 million people, he openly attempted to suppress the vote. Joe Biden, on the other hand, on that same debate stage, because clearly Donald Trump doesn't think he can run on a record because it's a failed record, Joe Biden on that stage said, hey, just please vote. So I'll repeat what Joe said. Please vote.
Thank you, Senator. Vice President Pence, President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If Vice President Biden is declared the winner and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what would be your role and responsibility as Vice President? What would you personally do? You have 2 minutes.
Well, Susan, first and foremost, I think we're going to win this election. Because while Joe Biden and Kamala Harris rattle off a long litany of the establishment in Washington, D.C., an establishment that Joe Biden's been a part of for 47 years, President Donald Trump has launched a movement of everyday Americans from every walk of life. And I have every confidence that those same Americans that delivered that historic victory in 2016, they see this president's record where we rebuild our military, we revived our economy through tax cuts and rolling back regulation, fighting for fair trade, unleashing American energy. We appointed conservatives to our federal courts at every level. And we stood with the men and women of law enforcement every single day. And I think that movement of Americans has only grown stronger in the last 4 years. But when you talk about accepting the outcome of the election, I must tell you, Senator, your party has spent the last 3.5 years trying to overturn the results of the last election. I mean, it's amazing. When Joe Biden was Vice President of the United States, the FBI actually spied on President Trump and my campaign. I mean, there were documents released this week that the CIA actually made a referral to the FBI documenting that those allegations were coming from the Hillary Clinton campaign. And of course, we've all seen the avalanche, what you put the country through for the better part of 3 years until it was found that there was no obstruction, no collusion, case closed. And then, Senator Harris, you and your colleagues in the Congress tried to impeach the President of the United States over a phone call. And now Hillary Clinton has actually said to Joe Biden that in her words, under no circumstances should he concede the election. So let me just say, I think we're going to win this election. President Trump and I are fighting every day in courthouses to prevent Joe Biden and Kamala Harris from changing the rules and creating this universal mail-in voting that'll create a massive opportunity for voter fraud. And we have a free and fair election. We know we're going to have confidence in it. And I believe in all my heart that President Donald Trump's going to be reelected for 4 more years.
You know, I've written all the questions that I've asked tonight, but for the final question of the debate, I'd like to read a question that someone else wrote. The Utah Debate Commission asked students in the state to write essays about what they would like to ask you. And I want to close tonight's debate with the question posed by Brecklin Brown. She's an 8th grader at Springville Junior High in Springville, Utah. And here's what she wrote, quote, "When I watch the news, all I see is arguing between Democrats and Republicans. When I watch the news, all I see is citizen fighting against citizen. When I watch the news, all I see are 2 candidates from opposing parties trying to tear each other down. If our leaders can't get along, how are the citizens supposed to get along?" And then she added, "Your examples could make all the difference to bring us together," end quote. So to each of you in turn, I'd like you to take 1 minute and respond to Brecklin. Vice President Pence, you have 1 minute.
Brecklin, it's a wonderful question. And let me just commend you for taking an interest in public life. I started following the news when I was very young. And in America, we believe in a free and open exchange of debate. And we celebrate that. And it's how we've created literally the freest and most prosperous nation in the history of the world. But I would tell you that don't assume that what you're seeing on your local news networks is synonymous with the American people. You know, I look at the relationship between Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the late justice who we just lost from the Supreme Court, and the late Justice Antonin Scalia. They were on polar opposites on the Supreme Court of the United States, one very liberal, one very conservative. But what's been learned since her passing was the 2 of them and their families were the very closest of friends. I mean, here in America, we can disagree. We can debate vigorously, as Senator Harris and I have on this stage tonight. But when the debate is over, we come together as Americans. And that's what people do in big cities and small towns all across this country. So I just want to encourage you, Brecklin. I want to tell you that we're going to work every day to have government as good as our people. And the American people each and every day love a good debate. We love a good argument. But we always come together and are always there for one another.
Thank you,
in
Vice
times of
President.
need. And we've especially learned that
Thank you,
through
Mr.
the
Vice President.
difficulties of this year.
Senator Harris, what would you say to Brecklin?
First of all, I love hearing from our young leaders. And when I hear her words, when I hear your words, Brecklin, I know our future is bright because it is that perspective on who we are and who we should be that is a sign of leadership and is something we should all aspire to be. And that, you know, that brings me to Joe. Joe Biden, one of the reasons that Joe decided to run for president is after Charlottesville, which we talked about earlier. It so troubled him and upset him like it did all of us, that there was that kind of hate and division. What propelled Joe to run for president was to see that over the course of the last 4 years, what Brecklin described has been happening. Joe has a long-standing reputation of working across the aisle and working in a bipartisan way. And that's what he's going to do as president. Joe Biden has a history of lifting people up and fighting for their dignity. You mean you have to know Joe's story to know that Joe has known pain, he has known suffering, and he has known love. And so, Brecklin, when you think about the future, I do believe the future is bright. And it will be because of your leadership, and it will be because we fight for each person's voice through their vote, and we get engaged in this election because you have the ability through your work and through, eventually, your vote
Thank you,
to
Senator
determine
Harris.
the future of our country and what its leadership looks like.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Thank you, Vice President Pence. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We want to thank also the University of Utah for its hospitality, and most of all, our thanks to all the Americans who watched this debate tonight. Again, our best wishes for a quick recovery to President Trump, the First Lady, and everyone who is battling COVID-19. The second presidential debate is next week on October 15th, a town hall-style debate in Miami. We hope you'll join us then. Good evening.
Wow. Where to even begin? Okay, hold up. I gotta get myself situated here. Woo! Okay. Hold up. Let me just unplug this thing here. There we go. Okay. That, hands down, I don't care what your politics are. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're a conservative. I don't care if you are a liberal. Pence absolutely decimated Kamala Harris. I mean, it was a verbal thrashing I had not seen the likes of in a long, long, long time. Oh my gosh. Woo! I'm feeling the scorch. Oh my god. Oh man, no, I mean, this was Pence basically just slipped that knife in every time and just kept twisting and twisting. The guy is a debate monster. No, I think Pence did very well, actually. Pence did very well. He was not flustered in any way. He was not rattled in any way. He addressed every point and every bullcrap thing that Kamala Harris tried to do. He was prepared, cogent, and fact-filled and composed. Exactly. Hey! Thank you. Thank you for the ice cream, Illustrator. Much appreciated. I mean, the thing here about Pence is, from the very beginning. All right, let's just do an overall analysis first, and then I'm gonna try and address a couple points. So, overall analysis first. Kamala Harris came out from the very beginning being condescending, being a cunt, basically, in the way she was addressing the Vice President of the United States. Clean up on aisle 3. We have a dead senator attracting flies. Thank you for the Bitwave coins, G Gallon. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, no, it was a massacre. Absolute massacre. You had Kamala Harris coming out being condescending, disrespectful, using a very inappropriate tone. I mean, she could have just come out, if she didn't want him to interrupt saying, I'm speaking, she could have done that in a much more respectful manner if she wanted to be respectful. She had no intentions of being respectful. In fact, the whole time, all she did was lie and dodge questions. She barely answered a question directly. She barely addressed issues. And she just brought up stuff that were absolute lies. Every single thing about like what he said about what Trump said about Mexicans, that's a lie. What the North Carolina hoax, that's a lie. I just saw that parody tweet. Yeah, that's funny. Thanks for Bud Green. That's funny. No, but basically, Kamala Harris, and when she was she had a direct opportunity to address certain concerns like packing the court, the Green New Deal. She just absolutely tripped up and fell over herself. She got emotionally wrecked. Her voice was quivering. You could tell that she got rattled. You could tell that she just got completely thrown off her kilter. This is the problem that Kamala Harris has had even in the primaries. In the primaries, that's why she seemed drunk in one of the last primaries that she had against the other Democrat candidates. She just was cackling the whole time, laughing, making like cracks that made no sense. I haven't seen someone get so wrecked like that, Venture. I haven't seen someone get so wrecked like that in a debate in a long time. I mean, Hillary Clinton got wrecked pretty bad by Trump. Pence just laid down this cool, calm, sleek, unmoved smackdown. I mean, it was a thing of beauty. If anybody ever wants to learn debate, that right there is a great lesson in debating. Be prepared, be cogent, don't let anything your opponent says rattle you in any way. Oh gosh, this was sold out. Yeah, this was a horrible performance on the side of Kamala Harris. And the moderator was an absolute failure. I thought Wallace was bad. I can't even imagine. I couldn't even imagine that this Susan Page person would have been even worse. I'm wrong. Susan Page was an absolute disaster. The very first question she comes out with is an absolutely biased, opinionated question. Every question she had was pretty much injecting her own personal politics and beliefs in there. It's amazing. It's really amazing to me how horrible this went for Kamala Harris. You know, usually like with the vice president debate, this is kind of what happened with Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan. In the debate with Mitt Romney and Obama and Paul Ryan and Biden, everybody was expecting Ryan to actually perform decently. Now, nobody expected Ryan to like be fantastic or anything like that. I don't even recall thinking about Ryan being so great. But I thought, well, it's Joe Biden. He should be able to hold his own against Joe Biden. And Paul Ryan, just his performance was abysmal. And that hurt the Romney-Ryan ticket irreparably. What we witnessed here was even worse than that. Yeah, but Ryan's performance was really bad, actually. Because Ryan had a chance to punch back, he had a chance to fight back, he had a chance to retort, and Ryan essentially just bent over, gave Biden a paddle, and says continuously, "Thank you, sir, may I have another?" That's basically what Paul Ryan did in that debate. He had opportunities. He made a couple good points. He did okay. But overall, his Ryan's performance was pretty bad. And at the end, that's what really that did a lot of damage to their ticket. I don't think it determined 2012, but it definitely did a lot of damage to the ticket. Mitt Romney did a horrible, horrible job as a candidate as well. He holds a lot of responsibility in what happened back then. Well, I mean, this definitely, to me, if the polls don't reflect this performance on the side of Pence, if this doesn't put Trump ahead in certain polls, you know it's all rigged. Oh yeah, Pence whipped Tim Kaine. Yeah, Pence, but even that performance between Pence and Kaine to me wasn't as memorable as this. This to me just showed me how the dude is a debate ninja. Okay, Pence is a debate ninja. He is so understated. He just goes in and he just walks up to you, slides a knife right in you. You don't even realize it. And you go, oh, shit, I just got a knife in me. So, yeah, Pence he's a smooth criminal. Absolutely a smooth criminal. No doubt about that. No, I mean, this was a slam dunk. I mean, all the stuff that Kamala Harris was trying to claim were mostly falsehoods. The ban on fracking. She said it herself she wanted to ban fracking. Biden said he wants to get rid of fossil fuels. That means removing fracking. They supported the Green New Deal. Kamala Harris was a co-sponsor. I had freaking forgotten about that. Pence brought it up. The only thing I wish Pence would have brought up when it comes to the taxes and everything, I really wish Pence would have brought up Joe's record about the $3.5 million that Hunter got from Ukraine and from Russia. That's the only complaint I have about Pence's performance. Is I really, really, truly believe that Pence should have brought that up. I think that was it's not a big problem. It's not going to hurt overall. But it's, to me, that was something that he should have addressed. But overall, Pence killed it. I mean, absolutely, Ambassador of Dog. Well, I'm sure Trump is going to bring it up again. Oh, Trump is definitely going to bring up the Hunter thing. Oh, for sure. For sure. Absolutely. He's going to bring it up. He's absolutely going to bring it up. He has to. I don't know. I think because the only reason why I think Trump should bring it up again and why Pence should have brought it up was for the fact to get an answer. It just shows you the dishonesty of the Biden administration and Biden in particular, because if Biden has anything to really say about being transparent as they're claiming to be, then he should be able to answer and say, you know what, listen. This is what happened here. This is all on the up and up. He should be able to provide the evidence of that, but he can't. That's the problem. Well, I mean, Chris Wallace tried to shut that down. Wallace tried to shut it down. The moderator here, I mean, to me, did a terrible job. Absolutely horrible job. It was a much more orderly debate compared to the Trump-Biden one, of course. So in terms of maintaining things a little bit more orderly, I think it was a little better than that. But the problem was she was not being even in her questioning. She was not being even in timing. She was not providing. She was letting like Kamala Harris do jabs and then wouldn't want Pence to reply. Yeah, Wallace pulled the plug on the Hunter stuff. He was trying to prevent Trump from even talking about it. So overall, so far it's 2-2. Both moderators have been absolute shite. You may have an interesting point there, Sold Out. And that I can agree with. I think Hunter is one of those issues. Sold Out is saying that I think Hunter is one of those issues that political diehards care about. Bringing up the Green New Deal is more effective. I have to agree with that. I think that I do agree that Hunter is more of a really, really hardcore political issue versus something that affects everybody. Because really, at the end of the day, Biden's kid getting $3.5 million really isn't a policy thing that will fuck people over, essentially. The Green New Deal will fuck people over, period. But yeah, basically, Pence teabagging the moderator and Kamala Harris during the entire debate was glorious. I mean, so to me, I would have just liked him to bring it up when it came to the taxes thing, because if they're talking about transparency, it was an apropos moment to bring it up. Would it be more effective to talk about other stuff? Probably. But as someone who cares about this sort of thing, for myself, my personal thing is I'm more of a diehard political guy. So I would say, yeah, I think it should have been brought up. Maybe not as forcefully as Trump did in the first debate, because Trump really did lay heavy on it, and I think maybe that affected how people perceived it as well. ABC and NBC are talking about Pence's eye. Yeah, he had a little thing on his left eye, didn't he? I don't know what was going on. There was a little bloodshot. Pence has beautiful eyes. Oh gosh, I love chat. But anyways, yeah. I mean, what is there really to say? Yeah. All right, come on, jump on cocaine, Mitch. We'll put you up here. Give me a second. Let me make sure your volume is up. Try and say something.
How's it going?
All right, can you hear me?
I hear you perfectly fine.
Beautiful. I can hear you too, and you got levels here, so everybody should be able to hear you. So yeah, Mitch, what do you think?
Oh, yeah, I'll make this quick. Tonight was an absolute bludgeoning, borderline rape. Kamala Harris made Tim Kaine look like Ronald Reagan. I didn't think it could be worse than what happened to Tim Kaine in that second debate. In that debate, if you look at the numbers, really gave a boost to Donald Trump's campaign. I think this is going to do the same thing here. First of all, these numbers, I wouldn't buy them that much. Again, if Joe Biden's up 15 nationally, he's not campaigning in Pennsylvania. He's campaigning in Oklahoma, trying to flip states.
Mm-hmm.
But it was absolute rape tonight. Pence absolutely obliterated her. She's more unlikable than Hillary. I cannot think of many people on TV who are more unlikable, who come off more unlikable than Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
I mean, she got destroyed tonight. And look, I think we're going to get a lot more of that in the next debate because it's the town hall, and Trump does very well. If you've watched any town hall he's ever done, Trump does very well in town halls.
He's calm,
true. He keeps things relaxed, and he just kind of lets it flow. He doesn't kind of get into an altercation or any verbal altercation, which a lot of independents don't want to see. When the town hall comes, Trump always brings it back, dials it back, which is what we're going to see next Thursday.
Oh yeah. No, he does very well in a town hall format. He's really good with that interaction with people. He's really good with that sort of thing. I completely agree with that. Yeah, Kamala Harris, I think she's gonna be walking funny for the next month. I mean, it was a bloodbath. It's like really bad for her.
She's gonna need that. She's gonna have to go to the hospital, get one of those kits to.
Oh jeez.
But yeah, again, and you saw these polls that I don't know if you've seen these polls. They have what do they have? I think one was like Biden plus 15. Again, look what the campaigns are doing. Look where the ads are being bought. Look where, again, the Biden campaign is doing an African American outreach in Pennsylvania.
Oh.
There's no way he's up by 9 in Pennsylvania if they're doing that.
Yeah,
so
again, I don't.
Is a certain group of pollsters, certain group of people. Maybe the chat will know who these group of people are. The Nate Silvers, the Nate Cohns, the Dave Wassermans. You might be noticing a trend in the last names here. The Goldsteins,
Yeah.
That group seem to be taking these numbers and if you look at a lot of these polls also, they're basically taking they're modeled polls. So they're modeling them after their expectation is, well, we expect an increase in Democrat turnout. So they're fudging these numbers to try to like suppress the vote on the Republican side.
Oh, they absolutely
again,
are.
like right now, I have Trump at 282 electoral votes. We'll see where that is. But this was a good night for the campaign.
Oh, this was a
Mike
very
Pence
good
absolutely
night.
obliterated her. And
Yeah.
with that, I will see myself out.
Okay, all right. It was great having you on here, Mitch. I always appreciate that.
Always fun, my friend.
All right. But no, absolutely, I agree that the numbers aren't accurate. I mean, you have in certain states, and I don't have the number or place right in front of me, but I remember reading articles about that, where you had like a 400%, was it 400% increase in turnout or something like that? It was like a huge turnout compared to like the Democrats, where they had I think it was like 170 something percent turnout of like an increase in voter registrations versus a just only 40% increase in voter registration for the Democrats. The Republicans had like almost 200% increase. And I think in Florida, there was one district that had a 4-to-1. They had 400. If I remember reading that. I'm going to have to look that up again to get the exact numbers, because I could be wrong with the exact numbers. So I'm not going to make any claims on exact numbers on that. But the eternal cocaine. that has to be the name of anything that we do. If we do a co-hosting thing, that's the name. That's we got to use that now. Trademark. All right. No, but in all seriousness, now, this debate was a pretty abysmal performance for the Democrats. It was a pretty abysmal performance for Kamala Harris. To be fair, yeah, much more disciplined, much more calm and control. Pence absolutely wrecked Kamala Harris, wrecked the moderator as well. The moderator was very opinionated, very biased in her questioning. Yeah, well, I'm saying it. We're going to use it. We're going to trademark it, and the shekels will be all ours. There we go. So with that, I think we're good for tonight. I'm going to call it a night, guys. I hope everybody enjoyed the special presentation here. We have a little bit of live commentary before and afterwards. We're going to do the same thing for the next debate. Tomorrow is Thursday, so no morning stream tomorrow. There's no morning stream tomorrow. It's going to be in the evening. We're going to do this again. Well, let me address that, troll, real quick. Before we conclude, I want to address the thing about Floyd. I don't think that's the point. The point was that if everybody agreed that something went wrong there. And I think the point that needs to be made is that the riots were unnecessary. The looting were unnecessary. The violence were unnecessary. And that's exactly what Pence was getting at, really, when he was talking about that. There's not tomorrow, Hetero Alpha God, but we're gonna have a morning stream on Friday, though. So Friday morning, save that coffee for Friday morning, because we're going to do that. So I think Pence did a very good job pointing that out, because it really isn't too important at the end of the day if the drugs killed Floyd or if or there was a combination of both or what have you. Because really what it boiled down to was that everybody had gotten together and agreed, this wasn't really good. No matter what the reasoning and the side was, and the whole the facts of the matter are. So I think that saying that regardless of that, if we can come together and agree on something and be unified and try and work together to fix the problem, whatever the problem could be. If all this violence comes out of it, and looting and fires and all this other garbage, And on top of that, you have a party and candidates that did nothing for a long, long time in condemning the violence, and they still won't condemn the violence. They say we shouldn't do anything violent, but they still won't explicitly condemn Antifa. They won't explicitly condemn BLM. They won't explicitly do that. And the only reason why they even do it now in the very generalized cursory way that they do is only because their polling and internal polling is forcing them to do so. They were encouraging this violence until just recently. So any condemnation that comes from the left at this point, from Biden, from Kamala Harris, from other senators, from other representatives, from the party, and from the media, I don't believe one iota of it. It's all bullshit because they were encouraging it from day one. They were pushing for it since day one. They were saying it was justified since day one. And you have people that were inciting violence, elected officials that were inciting violence. And that's absolutely unacceptable. Period. So that's the only commentary that I wanted to make when it comes to that. Yep, I just clicked on that alt-right. Thank you. Yep. So, with that, since we're talking about coffee in the stream in the morning on Friday, because we're going to have a morning stream on Friday, we're going to have an evening stream on Thursday, tomorrow. Make sure that, if you really appreciate what I do here, and I appreciate all you guys, but if you appreciate what I do, consider buying me a coffee. I have the link on screen there. Consider donating through cryptocurrency if you want to throw a lemon at me or variation thereof on DLive. Be my guest. I really appreciate that, but please follow as well. Following and sharing and helping me grow really is what's important. I've lost over 500 followers on Twitter thanks to Twitter, because Twitter just keeps hemorrhaging my followers. They keep just excising them and removing them from my count. So please follow on Twitter, on Gab, on Parlay, on Minds, on Float, and on all the video platforms that I'm on. I'm on YouTube, I'm on Twitch, I'm on Periscope, I'm on DLive, I'm on Float, and of course Bitwave. So please go out there, please support, and remember, kids, don't be complacent. I will wish you guys a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a wonderful night, kids.